What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours, it's about direction, clarity and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
UPSC preparation is not just about reading books or watching online lectures. It requires personal guidance, real discussions, and structured practice. This is where offline mentoring makes all the difference. Unlike online learning, where doubts often remain unresolved, offline mentoring offers direct interaction, real-time feedback, and an environment of discipline and competition. One-to-one sessions help students get tailored advice, strategy corrections, and focused improvement. Every aspirant has different strengths and weaknesses. Personal mentoring helps address them effectively. Ground discussions sharpen analytical thinking and help students develop a multi-dimensional perspective on issues crucial for prelims, mains, and interview. Elocution sessions help in personality development, clarity of thought, and confidence, essential for UPSC interviews. Test writing is the most crucial part of UPSC preparation. It helps in time management, structuring answers, and improving content quality. Offline mentoring is not just about teaching, it's about grooming future officers with the right guidance, discipline, and confidence. So if you are preparing for UPSC, make sure you have the right mentor by your side.
Are you still juggling newspapers, random notes, and endless PDFs trying to make sense of current affairs? Let's make your UPSC prep smarter. Introducing Digital Current Affairs Premium by Vision IAS, your all-in-one platform to read, revise, and write better every single day. Have a doubt from today's news or something in your syllabus? Just ask and get instant AI-powered answers that are concise, relevant, and completely aligned with the UPSC exam pattern. No more guesswork, no more confusion. Want to boost your mains writing skills? Practice daily with structured questions and get expert feedback to sharpen your content, clarity, and analysis, because writing well is winning half the battle. Need better revision? Use quick notes and highlights to save key points, mark important lines, and organize your current affairs in a way that actually works for you. And here's the best part, some of the most powerful tools are absolutely free. Daily news summaries from The Hindu, Indian Express, and more, curated, filtered, and exam ready. Downloadable PDFs so your notes stay organized and accessible. Daily quizzes and MCQs to reinforce what you've learned and track your progress. A smart student dashboard to monitor your performance and stay on top of your goals. Whether you're just starting or deep into your prep, Digital Current Affairs Premium adapts to your strategy and makes every minute count. So why prepare the hard way when you can prepare the smart way? Visit www.visionis.in/current-affairs and start transforming your current affairs prep today. Because with Vision IAS, you don't just stay updated, you stay ahead. UPSC CSE 2024 results are out and dreams have turned into ranks. Now you are asking, how do I get there? You've got the drive. What you need is the right guidance. Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 by Vision IAS is your one-stop guidance program for prelims, mains, and interview. Smart, strategic revision for prelims and mains. Consistent mentorship with personalized feedback. Daily weekly schedule and practice targets. Custom test practice via Sandhan test series. Interview and personality test training. All of it structured to guide you, strategic to keep you focused, and designed to meet your evolving needs. New batch starts from 19th May. It's your turn now. Start strong with Lakshya Mentoring Program 2026.
What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IAS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours, it's about direction, clarity, and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
UPSC preparation is not
What sets AIR2 and AIR3 apart in UPSC CSE 2024? They didn't wait to feel ready. They started smart with the GS Foundation course at Vision IS Delhi. Structured learning, focused current affairs, real mentorship, test feedback that actually helps you grow. This course isn't just about study hours, it's about direction, clarity and the strategy toppers trust. Start strong. Start where toppers started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice seeing you all. Today we are going to do a discussion on the 3 years previous year questions of the modern history, post-independence India and the world history, and that is also going to be the order, right? So first we'll cover modern history, then we'll move towards post-independence India, from which in the last 3 years one question has come, and then we'll towards the world history, I think, where 3 questions have come in the past 3 years, right? So overall, if we think about analysis of the questions which have come in the modern Indian history, you would realize that, okay, until couple of years back, UPSC was not asking anything about the conquest done by the English East India Company, but it surprised everyone and came up with a very unique theme. Matlab, you look at all the previous year questions, 15-20 saal ke bhi dekh lo, no question on the conquest by East India Company in mains, right? So therefore, what do we learn from this? That we cannot take anything for granted. For example, till now, no proper mains level question has come from the revolutionaries. But recently, if you notice, in the past 4-5 years, revolutionaries, have dominated, right? History of the revolutionary has, it is like there, right? Biographies are being written by about Savarkar, right? Similarly, for example, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose statue has been unveiled, right? So therefore, don't be surprised that if till now no question has been asked on contribution of the revolutionaries to the Indian national movement, what if UPSC asks, right? They have done it in the past, they can do it again. Right, so therefore that is one of the aspect, that is you become very aware about the current affairs, right, and therefore you try to, even if previous year questions are not highlighting it, you at least dedicate some time to those aspects also. Example, one theme is revolutionary, which as such has never been asked in the mains. In the prelims they do ask, but in the mains they have not properly asked any proper question on the revolutionaries, right. So conquest by the East India Company, then rule by the East India Company, right? What what was the rule like? What was the land revenue systems like? What were the consequences of that rule? For example, today the first question that we are going to discuss, it came in 2022, that why there were recurrent famines during the British rule, right? So that's a consequence of the company rule. That's a consequence of the British rule on the common people, right? So therefore, ऐसा then response of the Indians when this rule of the company and the Britishers was immoral, when this rule was basically anti-people, then how did the people respond, right? So the elite Indians, those who were Western educated middle class Indians, they responded with social reforms, right? Their response was mild because they did not have any issues as such of economic, security there. So therefore they were more hurt by the civilizational critique done by the Britishers of India, that ancient India was not great, right? So therefore some questions have come on the social reforms. UPSC has asked about Brahmo Samaj, Young Bengal, right? Aisa. Right, similarly in prelims also we see that. Baki here the focus it is mains. Second response by the Indian is the common people, right? Who are the common people? Well, three types of common people are there, right, broadly. In the rural areas, common people, masses, they are called villagers or peasants, right? So therefore peasant revolts. In the forest areas, they are called tribals, right? So therefore tribal revolts, right? For example, one of the questions that we are going to discuss, which has come in the past 3 years, is about how, what were the grievances of the tribals and what was their response, right? Third kind of common people are the urban area people, right? Who are the masses or the common people in the urban areas? Workers, right? But we noticed that in the past 3 years, in the past 5 years, past 7 years, no particular question has been asked on the working class, right? So therefore we should maybe at the time period of revision, right, give slightly some focus at least, if not definitely not ignore, because wohi ek cheez pending hai. That is the one thing which is pending among the common people, right? So women, gender based पे common people देखते हैं, तो women related issues have been asked in the past, recent past. तो मतलब एक focus है UPSC का on the common people, their issues, their economic grievances, their social grievances. ठीक है, तो पूछा जा सकता है उस पर. Recently constitution has been amended to give reservation to women also, right? So वैसे UPSC का focus रहा है, neglected issue नहीं रहा है, ठीक है, बट हाँ वर्किंग क्लास का एक इशू है which is kind of like थोड़ा सा अभी neglected हो गया कुछ टाइम से, ठीक है, तो आने को क्वेश्चन आ सकता है वहां से, right? Another kind of response was when this failed, so new kind of response was in the form of revolutionaries, which I told you that no question has been asked, right? तो ऐसा, तो ठीक है ये है. एंड इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट में भी एक रिस्पॉन्स, क्या उसको गांधीयन स्ट्रगल में भी डाल सकते हैं, ठीक है, दैट इज ऑल्सो रिस्पॉन्स. मॉडर्न इंडियन नेशनल मूवमेंट इज ऑल्सो रिस्पॉन्स, राइट, ऑफ द वेस्टर्न एजुकेटेड मिडिल क्लास. जब रिवोल्ट फेल हो गए तो वो आया, तो उसमें मॉडरेट्स के ऊपर यूपीएससी हैज आस्क्ड क्वेश्चंस इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स, ठीक. गांधी जी के ऊपर यूपीएससी हैज आस्क्ड क्वेश्चंस. गांधी जी के ऊपर जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो मेथड्स पे भी फोकस कर रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल रिसेंटली ए क्वेश्चन वॉज देयर कि प्लीज टेल अस अबाउट कंस्ट्रक्टिव वर्क प्रोग्राम in the non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. मतलब they are asking about method of गांधी जी, right? तो अभी तक तो हम बस रट्टा मारते थे कि सत्याग्रह इज इक्वल टू नॉन कॉपरेशन प्लस सिविल डिसोबीडियंस प्लस नॉन वायलेंस प्लस स्पिरिचुअलिटी स्लैश मोरालिटी प्लस कंस्ट्रक्टिव वर्क. उन्होंने आपसे पूछ लिया थोड़ा और बताओ, आंसर लेवल का बताओ, 150 वर्ड लेवल का बताओ, 250 वर्ड लेवल का बताओ, ठीक है ना. तो गांधी जी के मेथड, और फिर गांधी जी के मेथड हो सकते हैं, तो मॉडरेट्स के भी मेथड्स पे हो सकता है बात, जो किया ही उन्होंने. व्हाट आर दे हैव आस्क्ड इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स कि भाई व्हाट वर द वीकनेसेस ऑफ द मॉडरेट्स, एंड वंस दे हैव आस्क्ड दैट व्हाट वर द पॉजिटिव कंट्रीब्यूशंस ऑफ द मॉडरेट्स, ठीक है, तो उनमें मेथड्स उनके कवर हो ही जाएंगे. एक नेग्लेक्टेड पार्ट क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पे फिर, एक्सट्रीमिस्ट्स, राइट. मतलब इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स मॉडरेट्स हैव बीन कवर्ड, इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स गांधीयन मेथड्स हैव बीन कवर्ड, गांधीयन मूवमेंट्स हैव बीन कवर्ड. व्हाट हैज येट नॉट बीन कवर्ड, जैसे वहाँ पे वर्किंग क्लास बचा था, यहाँ पे क्या बच रहा है, वर्किंग क्लास बचा था, रेवोल्यूशनरी बता दी, क्या बच रहा है, एक्सट्रीमिस्ट. ऑल्दो उन्होंने एक क्वेश्चन पूछा है, टोटली नेग्लेक्टेड भी नहीं है, बट इन द नॉट इन द पास्ट 3 years, बट इफ आई गो पास्ट इनटू 5 years, एंड दैट वाज व्हाट वाज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ कर्जोनियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. अब भाई कर्जन साहब ही थे हु हैड इम्प्लीमेंटेड बंगाल पार्टीशन, एंड वही इम्पैक्ट था स्वदेशी मूवमेंट. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि 100% नेग्लेक्टेड है, ठीक है, पिछले 5 साल में एक बार तो पूछा उन्होंने, दे हैव आस्क्ड अबाउट एक्सट्रीमिस्ट, बट ठीक है, रिलेटिवली नेग्लेक्टेड, ठीक. इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू नेशन, एग्जाम्पल सोशियो इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट्स, सोशल रिफॉर्म, फेमिन्स, इंडिजिनस इंडस्ट्री, मतलब कॉमन मैन के जो इश्यूज हैं, तो दे हैव आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू जैसे मैंने फेमिन्स का बताया, सोशल रिफॉर्म्स का बताया, मतलब सोशियो इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट्स अपार्ट फ्रॉम द पॉलिटिकल सत्याग्रह थिंग, द सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज ऑफ द ब्रिटिश रूल, ठीक है, जिसके बारे में ऑलरेडी मैं बात बोल चुका हूँ, ठीक. देन इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू स्टेट एंड टेरिटरी, ठीक है, तो हमने एक पैटर्न देखा क्या देखा? इफ यू एनालाइज द पास्ट 5 years और 7 years ऑफ MIH क्वेश्चंस, तो यूपीएससी थोड़ा धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ रहा था, है ना? मतलब इट वुड आस्क अबाउट सोशल रिफॉर्म्स, वो तो 1800s में भी थे. देन इट स्टार्टेड आस्किंग अबाउट मॉडरेट्स, राइट? तो पॉलिटिक्स में दे वर टॉकिंग अबाउट मॉडरेट्स. फिर हमने देखा कि थोड़ा सा एक्सट्रीमिस्ट तक पहुंचे. फिर हमने देखा कि गांधीयन के बारे में भी आ रहे, तो थोड़ा थोड़ा आगे आगे आ रहे थे. आफ्टर वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम, लास्ट क्वेश्चन 2002 में पूछा था. लास्ट क्वेश्चन वाज इन 2002, राइट? सो अभी इन 2023 दे आस्क्ड अ क्वेश्चन, 2024 दे आस्क्ड अ क्वेश्चन ऑन क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट, है ना? तो स्टूडेंट इसे क्या समझता है फिर? 2002 2024, कितना गैप? 22 साल का, है ना? तो स्टूडेंट उससे ये समझता है कि भाई देखो ऐसा है, बाय ओनली डूइंग 3 years प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन, बाय ओनली डूइंग 7 year प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन, राइट? ऐसा नहीं है कि फुल प्रूफ चीजें हो जाएंगी, या तो 10 year भी फेल होता, ठीक है? तो मतलब यह है कि ठीक है, वी शुड डू प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन टू नो द ट्रेजेक्ट्री एंड द पाथ ऑफ द यूपीएससी, बट एट द सेम टाइम इन आवर माइंड कीप वन क्वेश्चंस स्पेस एम्प्टी फॉर बाउंसर विच हैज नॉट बीन कवर्ड इन द पास्ट 7 year क्वेश्चन. क्या क्या बाउंसर पता चले हमें अभी तक? वर्किंग क्लास बाउंसर, रेवोल्यूशनरी बाउंसर, ठीक है, एंड थोड़ा सा एक्सट्रीमिस्ट का बाउंसर. ये 3 बाउंसर हमें पता चल चुके हैं, ठीक? जो बचे हुए बाउंसर थे वो कवर हो चुके हैं. जैसे कॉन्क्वेस्ट बाय EIC वो रिसेंटली कवर हो गया है, तो चांसेस आर थोड़े से लेस कि भाई दोबारा पूछेंगे विद रिस्पेक्ट टू EIC कॉन्क्वेस्ट. तो 3 बाउंसर पता चल गए. तो प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन को एनालाइज करो, पास्ट 7 years को, ठीक? पास्ट 10 years कर लो, इट्स योर विश, बट कीप वन स्पेस फॉर बाउंसर, और उनको नेग्लेक्ट नहीं करना है, बिकॉज दैट विल गिव यू एज अबव अदर्स हु आर ऑल्सो डूइंग PYQ. इट्स कॉम्पिटिशन ना, है ना? वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री का एक क्वेश्चन बहुत मैटर करता है दोस्त, ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं होता, ठीक है? एंड जब मिडिल रैंक्स में आते हो तो 1-1 मार्क्स के ऊपर बहुत सारी 20-20, 30-30, 50-50 रैंक्स चेंज होती हैं 1-1, 2-2 मार्क्स के ऊपर, है ना? तो अब ये प्रॉब्लम है. इकोनॉमिक्स, हिस्ट्री, इकोनॉमिक्स, पॉलिटी, ज्योग्राफी, ठीक है, वो तो सब लोग प्रिपेयर करते हैं, तो सब लोग यहाँ पहुँच जाएंगे. उसके बाद क्या होगा? उसके बाद पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया डिफरेंस मारेगा, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री डिफरेंस मारेगा, वो लोग आगे निकल जाएंगे, है ना? और आपका लिस्ट में नाम या तो लास्ट में आएगा या 10 नंबर से जुड़ जाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि आपने ये वाले, तो यूपीएससी में यू कैन नॉट नेग्लेक्ट एनी सब्जेक्ट. हाँ, किस पे थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा फोकस, किस पे थोड़ा सा कम फोकस, दैट इज़ वन ऑफ द एस्पेक्ट. बट थिंकिंग कि हम कोई भी चीज़ नेग्लेक्ट कर सकते हैं ना, इंट्रा सब्जेक्ट नेग्लेक्ट कर सकते हैं, जैसे मैंने एग्जाम्पल से बताया ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी कॉन्क्वेस्ट के और क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट के, उसी प्रकार से हम वर्किंग क्लास, रेवोल्यूशनरीज, एक्सट्रीमिस्ट नहीं नेग्लेक्ट कर सकते. ना ही इंटर सब्जेक्ट नेग्लेक्शन इज पॉसिबल, बिकॉज 1 question 2 question, अभी काफी टाइम से यूपीएससी वाज नॉट आस्किंग क्वेश्चन. इन 2024 दे आस्क्ड 2 questions फ्रॉम वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री. और वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री का मस्त है, या तो नहीं पूछो 250 नंबर, 250 वर्ड्स का पूछ रहे. कह रहे यार मैं तो छोड़े बैठा था, है ना? मैं तो लास्ट के ओनली 10 days आई गिव टू वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री. 150 का पूछ लेते यार, फिर भी आई कुड हैव रिटन समथिंग. 250 वर्ड्स, है ना? वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में तो ऐसे सेंटेंसेस भी नहीं है मेरे पास, विच आई राइट व्हेन आई डू नॉट नो द आंसर. एग्जाम्पल, पॉलिटी, व्हेन वी डू नॉट नो द आंसर, सो वी राइट डेमोक्रेसी इज गवर्नमेंट ऑफ द पीपल, फॉर द पीपल, बाय द पीपल, है ना? इन कंक्लूजन वी राइट therefore there should be a holistic approach involving all stakeholders. Next पूछ लो, which are the stakeholders? है ना? That is what happens when we do rote learning. We do not know, है ना? वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में तो वो वाले सेंटेंस भी नहीं पता, right? तो how to write 250 words? So therefore do world history one time. Only follow Vision IS printed handout, right, which you have got, ठीक है? या फिर इफ़ यू हैव माई क्लास नोट्स, डिक्टेटेड नोट्स, है ना? थोड़ा सा ऐसा सुपीरियरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स से बोल रहा हूँ, है ना? डोंट फॉलो एनीथिंग एल्स. ये मैं आपको सही बता रहा हूँ, सही बता रहा हूँ. वो वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री के प्रिंटेड नोट्स भी मैंने लिखे हैं, वो दे आर एक्चुअली माई प्रिपरेशन नोट्स, राइट? व्हाट विजन IS गिव्स यू, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री बुकलेट, दोज आर माई प्रिपरेशन नोट्स, है ना? ठीक है? इफ यू डोंट हैव मच टाइम फॉर वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री, एलोकेट टाइम वंस, ठीक है? थोड़ा डिसेंट टाइम एलोकेट कर रहे हो तो रीड विजन IS नोट्स, उसके अंदर ओल्ड NCERT बाय आचार्य अर्जुन देव, नॉर्मन लोवे, सम लेवल ऑफ कहते हैं वो जैन माथुर, सब कंबाइंड है। ठीक, उतना टाइम भी नहीं है तो कहीं से जुगाड़ लो, क्या, क्लास के डिक्टेटेड नोट्स। ठीक, और सिर्फ उतना करो, ठीक है, दैट मच इज गुड इनफ। वन बाउंसर इज देयर इन वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री विच आई एम एक्सपेक्टिंग सिंस पास्ट 5 years, आ ही नहीं रहा, यूपीएससी बाउंसर मार ही नहीं रहा। इफ यू लुक एट द सिलेबस ऑफ वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री, it says events from 18th century or mid 18th century, but somehow bilkul they reach till World War II and they stop. There has been no question on Cold War, and the whole student community will be totally shocked and surprised if a 250 word answer is expected on Cold War, right? So therefore अभी वो वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में वैसे ही चल रहे थे, देयर इज अ पैटर्न, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में वैसे ही चल रहे थे। इनिशियली दे टॉक्ड अबाउट अमेरिकन रेवोल्यूशन, फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन, 1700s हो गया, हाँ, देन दे स्टार्टेड मूविंग टुवर्ड्स यूनिफिकेशन ऑफ जर्मनी, इटली, ठीक है, 1800s हो गया, देन दे स्टार्टेड आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस ऑन वर्ल्ड वॉर 1, वो हो गया, देन दे आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन ऑन इंटर वॉर ईयर्स, देन दे आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन ऑन, मतलब वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 पे स्पेसिफिकली क्वेश्चन दे हैव नॉट आस्क्ड, अभी वो वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के जस्ट पहले तक पहुंचे, 1939 तक, है ना। इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन पे दे हैव आस्क्ड क्वेश्चन विच इज 1750 to 1850 इंग्लैंड, राइट, एंड इन रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड 1870 ऑनवर्ड्स। तो अभी तक वो कहाँ पे पहुंचे हैं? अगर उनका दिमाग समझोगे ऐसे, अगर उसी चाल में चलते रहते हैं, टर्न नहीं मान लेते, तो मोस्ट प्रॉब्ली नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन कैन बी ऑन दी वर्ल्ड वॉर 2, राइट, बिकॉज वहां तक पहुंचे हैं। अब सारे क्वेश्चन देख लो, दे हैव रीच्ड अप टिल 1939, इंटर वॉर ईयर्स इज कवर्ड, 1939 तक पहुंचे वो, ठीक, पहुंचे थे, लगा था वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 पूछेंगे, वापस मुड़ लिए। अभी लास्ट क्वेश्चन आया कि वाई वॉज वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 फॉट, है ना। तो यूपीएससी का ये टेक्निक है ना, ऐसे मतलब ऐसे ही नहीं, थोड़े भाव खाता है, तड़पाता है, ऐसे ही नहीं, स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं, है ना, थोड़ा कभी यूटर्न ले लेगा ऐसा। तो बट हाँ, थोड़ा सा फोकस रहेगा किस पे, वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में। अगर आपको फ्यूचर में प्रिपेयर करना है, प्लीज डू नॉट नेग्लेक्ट थोड़ा सा वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 पे हल्का, यू हैव टू फोकस एटलीस्ट कोल्ड वॉर की जो बेसिक थीम्स हैं भाई, सिंपल 3 सिंपल थिंग्स, वाई कोल्ड वॉर वॉज देयर, विच टूल्स वर यूज टू फाइट द कोल्ड वॉर, बिकॉज कोल्ड है ना, हॉट वॉर तो लाइक ऐसा जैसे एक्चुअल फाइटिंग, राइट। सो व्हाट वर द टूल्स ऑफ फाइटिंग, information warfare was there, ideological warfare was there, economic competition was there, space competition was there, nuclear race was there, weapon race was there, right. Fighting took place in third countries like Korean War 1950-53, right, or 1946-54 first Vietnam War or second Vietnam War 1961-75 third countries में hot war था। हाँ, यूएस एंड यूएसएसआर के बीच में कोल्ड वॉर था, डायरेक्टली कभी हुआ नहीं, ठीक है। तो मतलब बहुत ही सिंपल लेवल पे वाई कोल्ड वॉर, ठीक। एक बड़ा मस्त क्वेश्चन बना सकता हूँ मैं, कंबाइनिंग वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 एंड कोल्ड वॉर। वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 डिड नॉट एंड इन 1945, एक्चुअली में हुई नहीं, देखिए जैसे खत्म हुई कोल्ड वॉर वाज आल्सो वर्ल्ड वॉर ना, all the big superpowers were participants and it was fought in the whole globe, right. So Cold War is also World War 3 in a way, Cold War is also World War 3 in a way, ठीक है ना। तो when do you call a war world war, which is fought on multiple fronts, where most important players are also present, right, and where nearly all the continents of the world are involved. All 3 parameters are met in the case of Cold War, just that it was cold and not hot war, that is no direct war. And ultimately third question, by what was the consequence of the Cold War on the world, on India, because UPSC has also shown a pattern combining world history and modern history, how industrial revolution impacted India, right, that is mixing world history with Indian context, right. तो बेसिकली वो एक बाउंसर हो जाता है। वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 एंड कोल्ड वॉर एक सिंपल मैनर में प्लीज प्रिपेयर करना, दे कैन बी बाउंसर, ठीक। पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया में दे टोटल फोकस हैज बीन अपॉन स्टेट रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एक्स्ट्रा फोकस है ना, पता नहीं कितनी बार पूछेंगे, ठीक है। तो मजबूरी में यू वुड हैव टू प्रिपेयर इट because multiple times they have asked question on reorganization of states, right. So that thing you would have to prepare. But some of the big neglected two neglected issues are there. Wars which were fought by India and Pakistan, 1947-48 war, 1965 वॉर, 1971 वॉर, 1999 वॉर, अभी रिसेंटली ऑपरेशन सिंदूर हुआ है. डोंट बी सरप्राइज कि वो पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया में पूछ लें सच अ क्वेश्चन. 65 वॉर के बारे में तो दे हैव आस्क्ड, जय जवान जय किसान 2014 में दे हैड आस्क्ड, राइट, बट उसके बाद दे हैव नॉट. सो अभी चाइना का वॉर अभी सब लोग फोकस करेंगे पाकिस्तान में. मे बी यूपीएससी विल आस्क अबाउट 62 वॉर, मे बी, राइट, कंबाइनिंग इट विद सम टेक्निकल थिंग्स रिलेटेड LAC and how solution can be, मतलब something can come with respect to border management or with respect to the 62 war, right. कैसे UPSC का नेचर है ये. Everyone will be focusing on Pakistan because of Operation Sindoor. वो आपसे पूछ लेंगे कि भाई बताओ इंडिया बांग्लादेश का बॉर्डर कैसे रिजॉल्व हुआ, या फिर इंडिया चाइना का बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट में क्या प्रोग्रेस हुई है, कुछ ऐसा पूछ लेंगे आपसे. मतलब वो नेचर है उसका, ठीक है ना. टू सेग्रीगेट गुड कैंडिडेट्स फ्रॉम एवरेज कैंडिडेट्स, ठीक है ना. तो पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया में वो एक चीज़ आ जाती है विच इज़ काइंड ऑफ लाइक थोड़ा सा पेंडिंग. खालिस्तान का एक इशू है, उसको हो सकता है दे कैन कंबाइन इट विद इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, राइट, और दे कैन मर्ज इट, मतलब पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस के हिसाब से, राइट. तो ये दो इशूज आ जाते हैं जो बड़े मतलब विच आर लाइक काइंड ऑफ लाइक बिग एलिफेंट्स इन द रूम. वॉर हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडिया एंड द नेबरहुड, एंड सेकेंड अभी रिसेंटली माओइस्ट कॉरिडोर भी खत्म होने को है, ठीक है ना. तो इंटरनल प्रॉब्लम्स दो रहे मेजर. खालिस्तान वाला इशू मतलब पंजाब की इंसर्जेंसी रही है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में इंसर्जेंसी रही है, और ये माओइस्ट वाली रही है, ठीक है. तो आप इसको यू कैन लुक एट इट फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, और यू कैन लुक एट इट फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया, ठीक है. बट ये थोड़े से कुछ टॉपिक्स हो जाते हैं जो कि मतलब एक तरीके से वो बाउंसर वाले एस्पेक्ट में आ सकते हैं. नाउ बिगिनिंग आवर दिस थिंग, राइट. सो इफ यू लुक एट दिस फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट why this was asked in 2022, so 22, 23, 24 ये हमको cover करना है. So why there was a sudden spurt in famines in colonial India since the mid 18th century. Mid 18th century means since 1750s. What had happened then in 1750s? Well, what had happened was Battle of Plassey, conquest by East India Company had begun. That means we have to cover from the 1750s, right. So why there was sudden spurt in famines in colonial India since the mid 18th century? Give reasons. Very simple, straightforward question. So therefore, what can be the straightforward approach? Straightforward approach can be that first of all we should know what is the formula for the famine, right. Famine is basically multiplication of two factors. One factor is human factor, and second factor is geographical factor, right. Now if you look at the question, right, अब question में famines used to happen earlier also, but अभी थोड़ा pace and frequency it increased, right. So therefore geography तो has not changed much, कोई climate change तो हो नहीं रहा था उस time पे, ठीक है ना. तो this must have changed, right. Human factor, geographical factor means let's say there is a drought, right. So therefore famine can happen, right. But if the human factor is good, then the geographical factor can be handled. For example, today India has so many, this thing storage of wheat and rice. So today, if by chance droughts happen, so famine will not happen. Second human factor can be a good government. Today we have nation state, government of the people, for the people, by the people. So therefore, the government will, it has a lot of forex reserves. It will import food grains from the outside. It will ensure that people they do not die because of hunger. What is the meaning of the word famine? When people die because of hunger. Right. So therefore you see that if the human factor it is good, then even if the geographical factor is bad, things will be fine, right. Another scenario, what if the geographical factor is good but the human factor is so bad that famine happens? Let's say normal food production is taking place, but all the food grains are either destroyed or sent out of India, right. Happened in 1943 Bengal famine, 50 lakh Indians died. All the food grains they were sent to Europe. And because Japan was advancing, so that the Japanese soldiers are not able to have food, so therefore many of the food grains were thrown into water also, right. So rich poor children are dying, but Japan should not be able to get food. Japanese soldiers they should not be able to get food. So that means geographical factor to sab sahi tha, but human factor was bad, right. So therefore this is how you develop a basic thought process, and from this itself I am getting my structure for the answer, right. I am getting the structure for this answer. So why was there sudden spurt of famine? So famine introduction में क्या कर सकते हैं हम? कह सकते हैं भाई famine is basically a combination of multiple factors like bad harvest plus lack of state support plus एक और human factor है, people themselves. If people have good savings, then if famine happens, that is if bad harvest happen, then no problem. People they can act as demand, right? Then supply will come. If people have power to demand, if people have money in their pocket, then food will come from the outside. When shortage of food is there, so what happens? Supply is less, demand is more, so price will be high. If people are rich enough, then food grain at high price, they can be imported from the outside. Right? So therefore these are the three aspects which comes into operation. Now how we can think about it? ठीक है, तो introduction इस तरीके से हो जाएगा. You can, this is one sample introduction whereby you can talk about कि भाई what is famine. Very simple. इसमें you don't have to be any hi-fi. Right? एक और अच्छा introduction भी मैं आपको दे सकता हूँ. क्या? That जब ये सब mind storm कर रहे थे, तो आप ऐसा लिख सकते हो कि British rule began with Great Bengal famine 1770 where 1 crore Indians died. During the British rule, there was Great Madras famine 1876 where 1.6 crore Indians died. And just 4 years before the end of the British rule, in 1943, there was a man-made Bengal famine where 50 lakh Indians died. Therefore, you have provided data to prove the question statement correct. And that becomes your introduction. कि जी आप जो कह रहे हो बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं, ये देखिए facts and now following reasons. Following were the reasons. Right? So therefore examiner will be very happy that okay, some factual information has been given in favor of the question statement, right? And now the reasons. एक first impression बन जाता है दोनों के केस में, ठीक है? इसमें भी एक intellectual impression बन जाता है that student is trying to approach the question in a organized manner, and second kind of introduction which I gave you, उसमें भी एक अच्छा impression बन जाता है because of the factual data, ठीक है? So that is how you can come out with introduction, right? तो apart from this, if you focus upon the lack of state support, तो human factor में क्या factors आ गए? One is state. State is the organization that rules the territory and its people, right? So we are talking about colonial state here. Second human factor that comes into operation is people, right? Is people. Third, ठीक है, तो geography में fine, you can add one factor that is the type of crops. If let's say this, it can be included here also, if the state is incentivizing or creating such a scenario that it is promoting production of the cash crops and not promoting production of the food crops, then there can be shortage of food, right? So therefore what are the types of crops, and the Britishers, they used to do that. So we will come to that. So first of all, you can say that when you talk about the role of the state, here you can talk about, for example, plunder and high extraction of land revenue, right? So Plassey plunder took place from 1765 to 1772, right? And from 1757 to 1765, Plassey plunder took place, right? That means a lot of wealth of the Bengal state was looted by the company. That means Nawab of Bengal, right? He does not have enough monetary capacity to help the people. Right, so in 1770, when the famine, when the droughts happened continuously for 2 to 3 years, so therefore Nawab of Bengal was the state which was ruling. It did not have monetary capacity because of the plunder to help the people. Right, that is like one aspect you can highlight. Second aspect you can highlight is that very high land revenue was also taken from 1765 to 1770, because in 1765 East India Company got Diwani. That means became in charge of the land revenue, and very high extraction of land revenue took place, right? So therefore that can become your first point. If you think about second point, then you can chronologically अगर चलना है, right? So therefore second aspect that you can talk about is, for example, the land revenue systems of the British. So all of us prepare land revenue systems like permanent settlement 1793, Ryotwari, which was first brought in 1801, then again brought in 1820. Then we had Mehlwari system, which was brought in 1822. Right? Now, while studying the land revenue systems, we always discuss what were the negative consequences of these land revenue systems. Right? As of permanent settlement में, right, very high rents are there, so therefore the common people are not left with anything. Illegal abwabs continued. In the case of the Mehlwari and the Ryotwari, land revenue was very, very high. To pay the land revenue, the Ryots, they used to take loans from the money lenders, and interest rates were very, very high. Well, basically you are trying to highlight that how the state is doing something which is hurting the paying capacity of the people, which is hurting the pocket of the people. So basically you're trying to establish कि लोगों के पास पैसे नहीं हैं, right, that people do not have money, ठीक है, which is also going to hurt what? Which is also going to hurt investments. If the Ryots, who are let's say small landowners in Ryotwari areas and in Mehlwari areas, if the land revenue is very, very high, or the interest rates which are charged by the money lenders are very, very high, that means they do not have enough money to invest in the productivity of the land, and that automatically will lead to lower production, right? So therefore they are not able to become rich because the land revenue does not leave much for investment, right? Then second aspect with respect to investment, when we discuss the permanent settlement 1793, every book mentions one thing, that the zamindar did not invest in the productivity of the land. आप कोई भी किताब उठा लेंगे उसके अंदर लिखा होता है कि जमींदार many of the times he used to become absentee landlord, मतलब खुद गांव से शहर में शिफ्ट हो गए, ठीक है, और ज़मीन को किसी और को लीज आउट कर दिया कि भाई तू देख, right? So therefore the big landlord zamindar did not invest in the productivity of the land, right? So therefore even big landowners, especially in the case of Bengal, they are not making any investments, so food production will not improve, right? Third element, third person who can do some kind of investment is the state itself. So when you discuss drain theory, right, moderates ke time pe, there one point it is mentioned that the Britishers, they did not build canals in permanent settlement areas. The reason was, in the permanent settlement areas, if the income of the farmers will increase, if the income of the zamindars will increase, the land revenue of the government will not increase. Land revenue was assessed at a absolute amount permanently in the permanent settlement system. Therefore, they did not build canals in Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, North Madras, Banaras areas. Right? Now, irrigation is very, very important. Canals are, important to bring water to the field. Right? So, therefore, the government is also doing a bias, right? Hanji, क्योंकि in permanent settlement, the land revenue, that is the tax from the agriculture sector, it is fixed at an absolute amount forever. That means if the government builds irrigation canals in the permanent settlement areas, तो जमींदार की income बढ़ जाएंगी, पर सरकार को कुछ एक रुपए का भी extra फायदा नहीं होगा. तो here the government, colonial state is acting in a selfish manner. Colonial state is saying that if I will not earn, why should I work hard? Right? Because in permanent settlement, the tax of the government is fixed at an absolute amount. ठीक है? नहीं तो traditionally क्या होता है? If your income will increase, tax income of the government will also increase because tax is in percentage form. But in permanent settlement, it is not in percentage form; it is in absolute amount form. So therefore, the government did not focus. Right? Another aspect of the state that you can talk about is this, that for example, type of crops. That is the Britishers, they, after their industrialization, the Britishers, they wanted to convert India into a source of raw materials. Now, raw materials for who? For the British factories. Factories use what kind of raw materials? The kind of raw materials which are coming from the agriculture sector to the factories, many of the times they are called cash crops. Right? Example, sugar, right? Or cotton, or jute, or coffee, or tea. Right? So therefore, this is how agriculture sector comes to act as a source of raw material for the industrial sector, and therefore industrial GDP increases. Right? So for them, India was a source of cheap supply, matlab low MRP supply of raw materials. So therefore, state would create such a system, right, whereby it is trying to promote, right, the production of cotton, production of jute, production of other kind of cash crops, therefore leading to less focus on the food crops, right? Now, with the help of cotton and jute production, let's say farmers are earning relatively more money. बट मेनी ऑफ द टाइम्स इट यूज टू हैपन, भाई देखो जो कैश क्रॉप्स होते हैं ना, उनका स्टॉक मार्केट की तरह ऊपर चलता रहता है, ऊपर नीचे चलता रहता है. देखो फूड क्रॉप्स तो हर कोई, एक पॉपुलेशन इज इंक्रीजिंग, तो बाय डिफॉल्ट एक बेसिक मिनिमम इंक्रीज इन डिमांड ऑफ फूड क्रॉप्स हैपन्स. भाई खाना सब लोग खाते हैं, ठीक, पर जब गरीबी आती है तो लोग कपड़े नहीं पहनते, जब गरीबी आती है तो रंग बिरंगे कपड़े नहीं पहनते और इंडिगो की डिमांड कम हो जाएगी, इंडिगोज डिमांड विल कम डाउन, है ना. तो मतलब कैश क्रॉप्स के साथ देयर इज दिस इशू, राइट, ऑफ मार्केट गोइंग अप एंड डाउन, राइट. तो whenever this thing used to happen with respect to cotton, jute and other kind of cash crops, so therefore the incomes of the peasants, it will also crash, right. If peasant is poor, then how he'll buy food also. एग्जाम्पल, एक एग्जाम्पल आप दे सकते हैं एग्जाम में. ऑब्वियसली मैं यहाँ पे बोलूँगा ज़्यादा, इतना सब आप एग्जाम में नहीं लिख सकते, ठीक है, बट मैं आपको एक थोड़ा समझाने के पर्सपेक्टिव से भी ठीक है. तो एक एग्जाम्पल जैसे दे सकते हैं, उसका बहुत छोटे में आप बोल सकते हैं. यूएस वॉज अ वेरी बिग सप्लायर ऑफ रॉ कॉटन. वंस यूएस सिविल वॉर हैपेंड फ्रॉम 1861 to 65, so supply of raw cotton from US to the world market decreased. When supply decreases, what happens to the price? Price increase. So Maharashtra Ryot was very happy. हाँ, inflation makes someone happy also. The seller, the buyer is sad, but the seller is happy. But then by 1870s, the supply resumed from United States of America, so therefore the prices came down, right. Now usually what happens, we adjust to higher standard of living. मतलब जितनी रजाई होती है ना, उतने हम पैर फैला ही लेते हैं, है ना. किसी की सैलरी 1 लाख रुपीस पर मंथ है, उसको भी पैसे नहीं बच रहे. किसी की सैलरी 50,000 रुपये पर मंथ है, उसको भी पैसे नहीं बच रहे, है ना. मतलब लाइफस्टाइल आप कह लो, या फिर तो व्हेन बेसिकली दिस सप्लाई रिज्यूम्ड, द प्राइसेस ऑफ द रॉ कॉटन दे केम डाउन. तो बॉम्बे डेकन राइट्स टुक प्लेस इन 1875 because of economic distress, and they targeted the money lenders actually at that point of time, right. तो ऐसे आप examples you can give, ठीक. Apart from that, what you can talk about is कि भाई wherever Britishers they created canals also, irrigation was not free, right. So therefore the poor ryots, they did not benefit from water from the canals because of high water rates, right. So therefore population pyramid is always like this, economic population pyramid. Masses are always poor, right. So therefore their incomes are not rising, that's why, so they are going to be in economic distress, and therefore थोड़ा सा भी bad harvest होगा, तो therefore chances of famine will be relatively high, ठीक है. This is what you can focus upon. Apart from this, what you can also say, you can come to the urban area, and when you can come to the urban area at that point of time, you can say कि चलो ठीक है, फोकस हमारा क्या है कि क्या गरीब व्यक्ति अमीर है या नहीं. अगर अमीर होगा तो झेल लेगा, ठीक है, शॉर्टेज ऑफ फूड क्रॉप झेल लेगा, प्राइस हाई प्राइस पे कर देगा. If we move towards the non-agriculture sector, then is industrialization of India taking place? Answer is no. Non-agriculture sector was called handicraft sector, right. British imports were very, very high. They destroyed the Indian handicraft sector, right. So therefore those people who were in the non-agriculture sector, that is in the handicraft sector, their handicraft sector is getting destroyed. प्लस नो ऑल्टरनेटिव इज अवेलेबल टू देम कि भाई चलो फैक्ट्रियाँ लग रही हो बहुत सारी, हम फैक्ट्री में जाके काम कर लेते हैं. दैट विल लीड टू हाई अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, दैट विल लीड टू हाई अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट. ऑल्सो इट लेड टू डिस्गाइज्ड अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, जो आप सब पढ़ते हो ना, एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को ओवरबर्डन ले देके क्या है कि अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट. अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट से भी क्या होगा, आम आदमी गरीब होगा. इफ द कॉमन मैन इज पुअर, देन व्हाट विल हैपन, दिस फैक्टर विल बी वीक, right. Buying capacity is not going to be there, so that also contributed. Then you can say that in 1860s and 1870s there were famines in different parts of India, and look at the intent of the state. State is doing what? Income tax, new tax is being brought, income tax, 1868. So while people are undergoing through famines, then should the focus of the state should be that how to give help to the people, or should the focus of the state should be how to like tax people more? So you see the intent of the colonial state. माने कि hash Indian lives don't matter. Hash Indian lives don't matter. That is the attitude of the colonial state. मरते हैं मरे, मेरे को अपना टैक्स चाहिए. ठीक. In 1876, Great Madras Famine has taken place. 1.6 crore Indians have died. And in 1877, Lytton 1876-80 is holding Delhi Darbar. Delhi Darbar where Victoria is going to come. उनको ताज पहनना है जी. Huge amount of expenditure will be done in Republic Day like gathering. Right. So therefore that money should have been spent for the welfare of the people who are dying. Whereas you are throwing that money in pomp and show. Right. So again hash Indian lives don't matter for the colonial state. Right. 1878-80 Second Anglo-Afghan War, also known as Lytton's Afghan Adventure. Adventure means taking unnecessary risk. So it was a avoidable war. It was a unnecessary war. And wars are very, very expensive. Right? So hash Indian lives don't matter. And last में hash Indian lives don't matter में you can conclude that देखिए no shortage of food was there, but all the food was sent to Europe to meet the food needs of the displaced Europeans and the European armies. Right? तो मतलब 50 lakh Indians can die, but Europeans should not die. Right? So therefore these are the attitude of the state, right? And all of these factors they contributed. Right? So therefore this kind of a thing it is there. ठीक है, तो this is enough material to cover this particular answer. Next, ये ठीक है, ये आगे ना समझ में, मतलब स्ट्रक्चर वही है कि what were the actions of the state, how it prevented the people from being rich enough to afford high inflation food price, right? And वो geography में तो बस एक वही factor है, ठीक है, कि type of crop that is also related to state only. Right, so that's how the Britishers, that's why they were very, very recurrent famines, because you're not leaving people with anything. Right. Next question, that is 2022 question again. Why did the armies of the British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, win consistently against the more numerous and better equipped armies of the Indian rulers? Full stop, give reasons. How we? Conclusion may, actually conclusion and introduction, they are very, very similar, right? They can be very, very similar, right? For example, I gave you two introductions, right? You can use one introduction as a introduction and you can use the second introduction as a conclusion. Just put the word therefore. Therefore, 5 years into the British rule, Great Bengal Famine 1770 took place. During the British rule, 1876 Great Madras Famine took place, right? And just 4 years before the end of the British rule, man-made Bengal Famine took place, which proves that because of above reasons, they were recurrent famines. You can add, they can be different, depends on the question, depends what is striking you in the exam at that particular point of time. For example, in this particular case, you can also give a conclusion in the form that British looted India to this extent, or drain of wealth, such high drain of wealth was there that even post independence in 1965, we were until 1965, right, we were dependent on food grains import. Example, USPL 480 food grains. And ultimately, finally relief came via Green Revolution 1967-77. Matlab something like this in a better language, maybe better than what I said. So that is how you can answer, right? So the answer can be futuristic also. You can dip a toe into post-independence India, right? Like this. Okay, so there can be different kind of this thing. Okay, so once or you can come up with another conclusion that as India became independent, right? मतलब कुछ ऐसा, मतलब उसका सेंस ऐसा हो सकता है, मतलब that earlier there was colonial state, right, which did not follow pro-people policies. Nation state from 1950 onwards, which followed pro-people policies. So therefore, famines have not happened in post 1947 era. मतलब उसका एक, मतलब उसका net gist, मतलब आप colonial colonialism से भी जोड़ सकते हो उसको, that colonialism was the primary reason for famines as evidenced by lack of famines post independence. मतलब this can also be another this thing, ठीक है ना. तो different ways are there of recruiting, ठीक. तो second question, why did the armies of East India Company, first of all, why do they use the word armies? Why don't they simply say why did the army of the British East India Company? So which were the multiple armies, right? Multiple armies were A, EIC army, its own army. क्या मुझे यार तुम्हारी, अरे बैठो 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 क्या, गुड गुड, दिल खुश हो गया, राइट. सो एक तो थी EIC की ओन आर्मी, and second the armies which they used to maintain for the Indian states with whom they used to sign subordinate alliance, right. So for example, if subordinate alliance has been signed with Hyderabad in 1798, which is the first Indian state to sign subordinate alliance, so uniform of the soldier in Hyderabad will be, right, it is what you call as a EIC commander, okay, but here it will be insignia of East India Company, but here it will be insignia of Hyderabad, because East India Company is maintaining army for Hyderabad, paid for by subsidy by Hyderabad, है ना. तो ऐसा मल्टीपल आर्मीज होगा, ठीक है ना. हाँ जी, बताना भी नहीं आता, छुपाना भी नहीं आता, हो जाता है ऐसे. मैं दोबारा कोशिश करता हूँ. इन see, let's imagine a scenario whereby East India Company has not signed subordinate alliance with anyone, ठीक. Still East India Company has its own army, right. There the uniform of the officer will be like British ही है, British commander ही है, uniform will be like here also insignia of East India Company, here also insignia of East India Company, no confusion. Now East India Company signs subordinate alliance with the Indian ruler, let's say Nizam of Hyderabad in 1798. What is the agreement? Hyderabad is going to contract out कि भाई ठीक है, you maintain army for me, I will give you money, you maintain army for me. We contract out so many things. For example, you just go outside the room, SIS people are there, na? Right? So Vision IS could have kept its own security guards also, but it gives money to the SIS. SIS sends its guards here, right? So therefore, ideally, uniform of the SIS guard should here be like, here SIS should be written, and here Vision IS should be written ideally. ठीक है, something like this, है ना? Something like this, you contract out. तो मैं आपको ये बता रहा था कि one army is of East India Company. Second is the army which East India Company is getting money from Hyderabad and maintaining for Hyderabad. Third army is East India Company getting money from Mysore and maintaining military in Mysore since 1799, subordinate alliance. Next army is EIC getting money from Nawab of Awadh from 1801 and actually from 1765, right, and maintaining army for Awadh since 1765. Right. Next can be since 1803, East India Company maintaining army for Sindhia and Sindhia paying subsidy because subordinate alliance in 1803 with Sindhia. Right. Since June 1802, East India Company taking subsidy from Gaikwad of Baroda and maintaining army for Gaikwad of Baroda. तो हो गई ना EIC की multiple armies. Commanders will be same, job will be rotatable, but on paper these are multiple armies. I just wanted to tell you that UPSC कभी भी कोई भी शब्द ऐसे ही नहीं लिखता है. Here it could have written why did the army of British East India Company and the question would have still remained the same. But here see it is writing armies, right? And in fact there is, UPSC has given you a hint that in your answer please talk about subordinate alliance. In your answer please talk about subordinate alliance. Hint दे दिया उसने, है ना? तो that is the thought process. आया आप समझ में? दोबारा okay. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, आंसर के लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है इसके, क्योंकि ये जो EIC आर्मीज थी दे वर फ्री का आर्मी, दे आर फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट आर्मी, राइट. सो वेन एवर यू थिंक अबाउट सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस, थिंक अबाउट द कैरेक्टर ऑफ रामायण बाली. Bali, whenever he used to come in front of his enemy, then half the energy of the enemy used to get transferred into Bali. This is Bali 2.0. Right? You sign subordinate alliance with your enemy. Somehow you are able to force your enemy to sign subordinate alliance. All the money which he used to spend for his army, Now he is going to give that money to you. You are going to maintain that army, and you can use that army as you want, because foreign policy was also taken over, right? So therefore it is free of cost army. And if I want to increase the size of my army, I don't have to do anything. I will just increase the subsidy. That is, till now you are giving me 50 lakh rupees. Now you have to give me 75 lakh rupees. With that 75 lakh rupees, I'll maintain a larger army, right? So it's free of cost army. It's free of cost army. Okay. So khair, now if I come to the structure of the answer, so how we can go about it? So the question is, why did the armies of the British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, won consistently against the more numerous and better equipped armies? मतलब question आपको simply बता रहा है कि कोई racism was not there, वहाँ भी Indians थे, यहाँ भी Indians थे. So please tell us that what was the differentiating factor, right? So first factor that comes into operation is that these numerous and better equipped Indian armies of the Indian rulers, they were not under one command. They were not under one command. That is, there was lack of one strong centralized state in India. This kind of system, it is not there, that English East India Company is doing something and all of these soldiers which are not on the company side are fighting as one unit. Why? Because there is lack of one strong central power. Sabro? The whole point is, had there been one kingdom in India, one empire in India, which is very, very strong and very, very powerful, okay, then East India Company attacks this empire anywhere, right? Then the emperor will say, soldiers, commanders, gather, attack, right? All of these lakhs of soldiers would have come together, pounced upon English East India Company, and East India Company would have been found directly in London. Right? But the problem is, because decline of Mughal has taken place since 1707, decline of Maratha, who were strong, has taken place since 1761. So there is no one single center of power, Indian center of power, who commands all of these armies. Example, in 1686, when Mughal emperor was still powerful, East India Company committed the mistake of attacking the Mughals in Bengal. Right? And very easily the East India Company was thrashed like this, made to pay 1.5 lakh rupees compensation. Why? Because one strong central power. है ना भाई, आज के टाइम पे आपका राजपूत राइफल्स, जाट रेजिमेंट, सिख रेजिमेंट, गोरखा रेजिमेंट, दे फाइट एज वन यूनिट ना. What if they are under different rulers? Right? So first of all, they are not united. That is lack of one strong central power. That is one reason. Second thing that you can talk about is that this British East India Company armies, they were not alone. Many of the times it used to happen that the British Royal Military from London used to help them. Example, in Battle of Plassey 1757, Royal British Army was present. In 1857 revolt, it was with the help of the Royal British Army that English East India Company was able to survive. Right? So they had external help also. That can be the second point. Okay. Third point that you can talk about is political strategy of divide and rule plus military alliance. Example, if you talk about political strategy of divide and rule, so how is English East India Company winning its first battle, Battle of Plassey 1757? हमें तो अपनों ने लूटा, गैरों में कहा दम था, हमारी कश्ती वहां डूबी जब पानी कम था, है ना. So it is factionalism ना. Mir Jafar and Siraj-ud-Dowla, they are not united, right? And Mir Jafar is war commander, and he is saying, I'll ask most of my soldiers to not fight, and therefore you can easily defeat Siraj-ud-Dowla. That is how conquest began. So therefore it is not just on the battlefield, but it is also the diplomacy which is doing its magic in favor of the English East India Company. Right? Rule of diplomacy. ठीक. Second aspect, for ऐसे ही आप और भी examples दे सकते हो, आपके ऊपर है, मैं verbally थोड़ा बता देता हूँ. Right? For example, first Anglo-Maratha War. How did it begin? Raghunath Rao went to English East India Company in Bombay, said, please make me Peshwa again, and therefore I will give you some things. So therefore first Anglo-Maratha War began. So factionalism was there. Right? So all the Marathas are not united. Then how did second Anglo-Maratha War began? In 1803, Bajirao II, 9618, 1796-1818, because of some infighting, he was forced to flee. He also went to the Britishers, please help me become Peshwa. I will do whatever you want. Wellesley was present at that point of time. He said, if you sign subordinate alliance with me, that means you give up your army and your foreign policy, plus you pay me subsidy to maintain army for you, then I will help you. He is saying, okay. Right? That means in the second Anglo-Maratha war, my friends, in the second, सब लोग बोलते हैं कि सेकेंड एंग्लो मराठा वॉर ऑन वन साइड, मैं आपको बस एक थॉट प्रोसेस बता रहा हूं, सब लोग बोलते हैं कि इन सेकेंड एंग्लो मराठा वॉर ऑन वन साइड दे वर ब्रिटिशर्स, ऑन द अदर साइड दे वर मराठास. द स्टेटमेंट इज टेक्निकली इनकरेक्ट. Second Anglo-Maratha War begins in 1803. In 1798, subordinate alliance signed with Hyderabad. In 1799, subordinate alliance signed with Mysore. In 1801, proper subordinate alliance signed with Awadh. In 1802, subordinate alliance signed with Gaikwad. In 1802, December, subordinate alliance signed with Peshwa. So therefore, you know what is the technical equation of this war? EIC army plus Gaikwad plus Peshwa plus Mysore plus Hyderabad plus Awadh versus rest of the Marathas. Because as soon as you sign subordinate alliance, Bali 2.0 happens, okay? As soon as you sign subordinate alliance, that your enemy is not just destroyed, he is converted into your permanent friend. एक तो होता है your enemy is destroyed, दूसरा होता है enemy की शक्ति तुम्हारे अंदर आ गई, because you are now going to maintain army and उसका पैसा तुम्हें नहीं देना, he will give. राइट तो तुम तो बहुत विशाल का ही हो गए, तो डबल पावरफुल हो गए. राइट सो देयरफॉर दिस इज द मैजिक ऑफ सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस. राइट दिस इज हाउ सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस असिस्टेड देम. राइट सो ऐसा आप बात कर सकते हैं, या आप सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस के बारे में मेंशन कर सकते हैं कि भाई ये कुछ एग्जांपल्स आप दे सकते हैं ऑफ सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस. यू कैन मेंशन दिस प्रिंसिपल दैट एवरी सबऑर्डिनेट अलायंस बेसिकली exponentially increased the military power of English East India Company. Each subordinate alliance means a new full army. Each subordinate alliance means a new full army, free of cost. Right? तो ऐसा. Then you can mention in subordinate alliance, foreign policy is taken over. That means you are doing divide and rule. If I assign subordinate alliance with you and you and you three, I signed subordinate alliance with you three, right? Now your foreign policy is also with me. तुम चाहते हुए भी legally अगर मैं बात करूं, you cannot form an alliance with the rest of the Indian rulers. Have I not divided the Indian rulers? Have I not divided these three from rest of the Indian rulers? Because I have taken over foreign policy, right? So therefore, at times as student of history, we feel bad. कि क्या यार, अंग्रेज हमें लूटते चले गए और हमारे राजा इकट्ठे होकर रिवोल्ट भी नहीं कर पाए. अरे नहीं कर सकते. You three can revolt in individual capacity, but you do not have army to support you. Because as soon as I signed subordinate alliance, I disarmed you. Now it is a suicide mission for you. Suicide mission है. अगर रिवोल्ट करोगे, individual capacity में रिवोल्ट करोगे, maybe some of your peasants will support you, some of the ex-soldiers will support you, but वो बात नहीं है अब. Right? So therefore, diplomacy, right? Divide and rule. Right? So I have disabled the Indian rulers from coming together. Then Britishers, next that you can mention is Britishers, they had a policy of ring fence. It simply meant signing military alliance with Indian rulers, where you are not subordinating anyone, but you are becoming military friends. Right? Example, when Battle of Buxar took place in 1764, after that military alliance was there with Awadh. Then for example, when what you call as this, you can also mention 1809 Treaty of Amritsar with Punjab, Treaty of Salbai 1782 with Marathas. These are examples of military alliance, right? So therefore, that is also divide and rule. If you three have your own armies, but I have done friendship, military friendship with you, so therefore, if I am fighting the next Indian ruler, you are going to be with me, help me defeat him. Here you can give one example. Example, in the 4 Anglo-Mysore wars, it was not just Britishers who defeated Mysore, but it was Britishers aided by Marathas plus Hyderabad, because they also had their own territorial disputes and were in alliance with the British. Treaty of Salbai 1782 के बाद से Marathas were in alliance, right? And subordinate alliance के बाद से, in fact 1766 के बाद से Hyderabad was also friendly. Hyderabad had given Andhra Pradesh to British in 1766, Nadan Sarkars, in return for military friendship. ठीक है ना? So therefore ये भी मस्त है. अकेले कहाँ दम था इनमें? अकेले कहाँ दम है इनमें? Alone, how they are not able to, alone they don't have the capacity, man. Right? It is with the help, it is their sharp diplomacy, right, through which they are taking help of the Indian rulers or forcing the Indian rulers, right? This is divide and rule, right? So that is how they are operating. ठीक? Then another aspect that you can mention is sepoys ka. For example, sepoys, they were paid regularly and their salary was also better if you'll compare the salaries with the armies of the Indian kings. That is one of the aspects you can mention. Apart from that, well, karat karat abhyas ke jadmati ho sujan. European history is very bloody history, right? Like a lot of wars, right? So therefore, it was a matter of survival for them. So over a period of time, they were able to develop better military organization and better military tactics and also better military technology, right? So therefore, they were better there. And you can give one example. For example, you can mention that in Battle of Adyar, right? In Battle of Adyar, 700 French trained soldiers, right? They defeated 10,000 strong cavalry of Nawab of Carnatic, right? In 1746. I know I have said French, it's not a typo, but I just want to, chalo exam mein bhi nahi likhta hai, but for your consumption I wanted to tell you that how strong was the European technology. British are also European, French are also European, right? So therefore मतलब उनका technology और ये चीज़ relatively better था. एक और चीज़ आप बोल सकते हो, number one navy in the world was British Navy, right? So therefore wherever any coastal warfare will take place with the coastal states, right, their advantage will be of the Britishers. That is also you can mention one of the aspect. ठीक? Then you can also mention certain mistakes. अच्छा इसमें आप और भी चीज़ ठीक है. Then you can mention some tactical mistakes on our side also, right? For example, in the Battle of Buxar, this thing it is there that Nawab of Awadh, Shuja-ud-Dawla, all the preparations were made from defensive perspective. That is, a fort was there and siege was laid. Ultimately lost patience and adopted offensive tactics, that is attacked the fort. So it is a tactical mistake which is there, right? So some tactical mistakes they can be, you know, also highlighted. ठीक? And एक लास्ट में टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में बोलना है तो कैन मेंशन दीज वर्ड्स, लिख लो इन शब्दों को. ग्रेप शॉट, grape shot. Grape shot is nothing like a shotgun kind of a thing. That is when you will fire. So एक आपकी छाती पे अंगूर का गुच्छा बना होगा गोलियों का. It is not just one bullet. It is like multiple bullets. So close range पे it will play a very big role. Comma Brown Bess musket rifle. Brown Bess musket MUSKET rifle. Brown Bess musket rifle. तो इसमें क्या है? In the front it is knife, right? So therefore in short range, automatic rifle came in World War I. मतलब automatic AK-47 is also machine, na? Machine gun is also machine. That will happen after Industrial Revolution. Before Industrial Revolution, manual loading is there, right? So therefore soldiers are moving close, right? Firing. ऐसा ऐसा चल रहा है. And now when you are this close, the other party is doing tha. उससे पहले आप करो. You see, in second, huge difference will be there. मैं मजाक नहीं कर रहा. William Dalrympe in his book, right, Anarchy, he writes that Brown Bess musket wreaked havoc on the armies of the Indian rulers. बहुत ही छोटी सी innovation, right, wreaked havoc. ऐसा मतलब ठीक है इस तरीके से, right? Then file firing, FILE, file firing. File firing. File formation, everyone knows in the morning assembly in the schools, we used to stand like this, right? So therefore, file formation. So therefore, you are going to stand in particular row and column. Even if someone is dying, even if bullets are being fired upon you, you are going to stay in that formation. It will lead to great benefits. How it will lead to great benefits? So for example, let's say this is file formation, right? You are trained, this is your enemy, okay? Right, so this enemy will feel that a rain of bullets is coming on me. इधर से भी bullets are being faced by these soldiers. Even if the center one dies, you have to stay in that formation only. So it leads to what you call as very organized kind of a firing on the enemy. ठीक है ना? तो different kind of formations can be there, right? Military strategy के हिसाब से. तो therefore these kind of things you can mention. ठीक? Next question that we have is, हाँ जी. Army was technically owned by the Indian ruler, but it was maintained by the British. So if you say भाई पिज्जा आपने खरीदा डोमिनोज का, तो मैं आपसे पूछता हूँ कि पिज्जा डोमिनोज का या आपका है? आपका, पर प्रिपेयर्ड बाय डोमिनोज ना, है ना? मैंने आपसे पूछा क्या खा रहे हो, आप कहोगे डोमिनोज का पिज्जा खा रही हूँ. तो समझो लैंग्वेज वाली बात है. तो फाइन, अब उसको ब्रिटिश आर्मी मतलब एट द डिस्पोजल एट फॉर द यूज, मेंटेन्ड बाय एंड यूज्ड बाय ब्रिटिश ही है. बट हाँ, बहुत ज्यादा निटिग्रिटी में जाओगे तो बिकॉज इट इज बीइंग पेड फॉर बाय सब्सिडी बाय द इंडियन रूलर, सो वन कैन से दैट इट इज टेक्निकली ओन्ड बाय अवध बट यूज्ड बाय ब्रिटिश. तो फ्रॉम प्रैक्टिकल पर्सपेक्टिव आप उसको EIC आर्मी ही बोलोगे. यस. हाँ, definitely. मतलब you can mention these things that that some of the EIC commanders they had experience of the European wars, etc. Next question, if we talk about, for example, revolts and grievances. So 2023 question: how did the colonial rule affect the tribals in India, and what was the tribal response to the colonial oppression? So this is a very straightforward question, right? So this I explain the way I explain in the class, right? Because this is a very brilliant figure which can be used in the exam also. Right, so let's say these are plains, okay? These are plains, and these are what you call as forests, right? So grievances are created by what you call as the entry of the outsiders into the tribal areas, okay? And primary focus of the Britishers is that their greed to get land revenue from the forest areas also, because a lot of cultivation takes place there also, right? So in some of the cases, they told the zamindar of the plains that from tomorrow, this adjoining forest area, you are the owner and you have to give us now not this much land revenue but this much land revenue, right? So this zamindar will enter into the forest area, will start treating the tribal cultivators as his tenant ryots and start exploiting them, right? So tribals feel that we are being oppressed by the Indian outsider. In some of the cases, second land revenue system of the Britishers was what? For example, farming system. So in the second case, what can happen is that revenue farmers, right? The British, they can auction the right to collect land revenue from this much forest area, right? So therefore these revenue farmers who participate in the auctions, they will enter into the forest with their private lathials, and they'll force the tribals to pay lagan, okay? Tribals will again feel that we are being repressed by the outsiders, right? So tyranny of the outsiders, Indian outsider and Firangi outsider. This is the grievance of the tribals. Then in some of the cases, they will say that, hey tribal leader, everyone follows you. From tomorrow, you are the owner of land for us. And all the rest of the tribals are your tenants. And this much lagan you have to pay. Right? So therefore, now there is an authority above the tribal leader. Right? And therefore, oppression will take place by the British officials. In some cases, they will apply ryotwari. And they'll say, hey Mr. Tribal, you are the owner of land, right? And this much is the land revenue that you have to pay. My officers, they will come and they will take this much amount of land revenue from you. Tribal leader, tribal person, here, okay? And here also, tribals, they are asking, कि भाई, okay, you take some kg, can no kg, we want rupee. But our economy is not cash-based economy. British are like, I don't know. You have to pay land revenue in cash, right? Take back this 10 kg, 20 kg, 30 kg, 100 kg of wheat or rice. Cash. Tribal is like, my society is not cash-based society. We do barter trade with each other. No problem. Hey, moneylender, come here. Mr. Moneylender, meet Mr. Tribal. Give him loan. that loan will be of course. So he has to take loan to pay the land revenue, but that loan is high interest rate loan. Right? Now he is going to get oppressed by the Indian outsider called Mr. Moneylender. Right? So therefore entry of the moneylenders. Entry of the moneylenders. हाँ जी. Enter merchants. Right? So मनी लेंडर क्या करता है, बैंक वाला काम करता है ना, ठीक है ना. तो बैंक वाला काम है. तो बेसिकली मर्चेंट्स they can also they can take wheat rice, they can go to the areas of the plains, they can sell that wheat rice there, right, pay the money, right. So therefore this is how gradually system can get created. Merchants क्या करते हैं, they move goods including agriculture goods from place A to place B. Right, so merchants they can also purchase wheat and rice from the tribal ryots, and maybe with that money they can pay the money lender. Right. So merchants also entered. Hanji. Tribal leader is tribal only. Right, but he was not treating his ryots as his tenant ryots. Right, now he is being forced them to pay high rents. Right, because he has to pay land revenue to the British. Yeah, he has. Yeah, that is what is happening. He has to pay the land revenue to the district collector. Right. Then tribal, they used to enjoy tribal autonomy, tribal way of life, tribal code of conduct in civil matters, criminal matters. Right, two kind of matters are there, na? Civil and criminal. है ना, या तो हमारा कोई सिविल लड़ा है या हमारा कोई क्रिमिनल लड़ा है. Either we have some civil issue or we have some criminal issue. Tribal code used to apply. Right. Britishers they now say no. Now West-like laws will apply. So therefore we know that after the Charter Act of 1833, one legal member Macaulay was added to GG's council. Right. In 1834, a law commission was set up in 1834 to make West-like laws for British India. Those laws they were made by 1837. Later on, they were updated into Civil Procedure Code 1859, Indian Penal Code 1860, and Criminal Procedure Code CRPC 1861. Right. So now tribal law will not apply, but West-like laws will apply. Right. So therefore, a Firangi outsider, but who is not a human being, who is law. Right. So therefore British officials and British law. For example, one of the law was Indian Forests Act 1878 brought by Lytton, that divided the forest into three parts. Reserved forests where tribals are not allowed, so there they are going to lose their home. Right. Imagine someone enters into your house. Right, this thing I say in the class also. Imagine someone enters into your house and says that now your house is heritage property, get out. राइट, यू लाइक कि मैं पापा को बोल तो रहा था कि पेंट करा लो, बहुत अब झड़ रहा है सब कुछ, मुझे नहीं पता था गवर्नमेंट के हिसाब से भी एंशिएंट. हाउ विल यू फील, है ना, लॉस ऑफ होम है ना. डेवलप एम्पैथी. प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट, देयर ट्राइबल्स कैन लिव, दे कैन ऑल्सो कंज्यूम माइनर फॉरेस्ट प्रोड्यूस like tendu-patta, bamboo, right, honey and many other things, right, but they cannot sell it for additional income. So therefore their right to forest wealth is being taken away in those forests which are being classified as protected forest. And third category of forest is open to all, where all of these people are entering. Right. So therefore Indian Forest Act 1878 hurt. Another kind of law was banning of jhum cultivation. Slash and burn cultivation, jhum cultivation, that was a traditional way of practicing agriculture. Now they are saying no, jhum cultivation it is not allowed. Right? हाँ जी. So obviously law will take its course, na? If they'll refuse to follow the law. So British police is also there, British army is also there, coercive tactics are also there, lathi charge is also there, bullets are also there. That is what happens, na? So, or their lands can be given to someone. Government can acquire their lands. है ना? अच्छा, you will not pay land revenue. चलो निकलो. This land is government land. What can you do? ठीक. Why did they ban jhum cultivation? For the same reason they banned hunting. They are not any animal lovers or anything. Basically they want people to be peasant. Those who are hunter gatherers, how they will pay any land revenue, any tax? ठीक है ना? अब ऐसे थोड़ी कहेंगे कि लो leg piece, your share, है ना? तो British वो भी ले लेते, but cold chain infrastructure is required for that. Right? But that is not there. Right? So they want to change the profession of the people from being hunter gatherers to be peasant. And they don't want people to practice jhum cultivation because ease of tax collection. Otherwise the officials are coming around the season of harvest and यहाँ सब धुआं है. Right? So where to find them? So you want people who cultivate same plot season after season, year after year, so that the state has ease of tax collection. Right? That's the whole purpose, intent of the state. Indian rulers वो यहाँ से tax fax नहीं लेते थे. In the pre-British time, no interference used to be there. Some exchange used to take place, but as a operation was not there in the domain of economy, in the domain of polity. Right? British officials, they are entering, they are saying ki now we are the boss. Huh? That is tribal leaders, autonomy is going to get hurt. Then you have what you call as, apart from this, Christian missionaries, which lead to cultural interference. And you can give, okay, you can give example that Mundas revolted on 25th of December 1899. Right? Because of convergence to Christianity began after Charter 1813. So Christian missionaries, they entered into the forest. Right? For example, Nagaland is now 90%, today it is 90% Christian. How? Because in the past, convergence took place. Right? So aisa Christian missionaries. So these are the outsiders which are entering into the economic life, political life, and the cultural life of the tribals. And therefore their right to land, right to home, right to forest produce, right, that is getting hurt. Another element is, for example, British businesses. British businesses, right? So example, railroad construction, land acquisition will be done. So for example, if this is a forest and I want to connect point A with point B, and this is the, this land will be acquired. So the tribals who are living in these lands, for them it is loss of home. Last एक business, for example, timber cutting contract, right? So therefore imagine people enter into your house, right, and they start cutting the legs of your chair. तुम UPSC के लिए पढ़ रहे हो, करके timber cut हो रहा है. How will you feel? है ना? That someone has entered into your home and cutting your timber, right? So these are the issues. Yes. प्रोटेक्टेड फॉरेस्ट से मॉनेटरी इकोनॉमी में कैसे आएंगे? नहीं वो तो देखो कोर इंटेंट तो सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट ही था, दैट दे वांटेड चेंज ऑफ प्रोफेशन बिकॉज दे वांटेड टू गेट लैंड रेवेन्यू. इनको कोई शेर टाइगरों से प्यार व्यार नहीं था. देयर इज वन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस, राइट, इन 1880s में है वो, ठीक है, एंड his hallmark was that he had killed 100 tigers. So they don't have that intent of protecting the forest or bringing them as into part. That will be their narrative, but that is not the true intent. What was the second aspect of the question was, what was the response? So response, you can classify, one is what you call as revolts which are taking place. You can give examples. What was the tribal response? Response was revolt. So you can mention different kind of revolts, coal uprising, right? You can mention Santhal rebellion, right? You can talk about revolt by Tirath Singh in, you know, Meghalaya area, right? Because मतलब वो तो खैर चलो सब डेटा है ही ना अपने स्पेक्ट्रम स्पेक्ट्रम में वो लिखा ही रहता है ना रिवोल्ट्स. ठीक है, उन रिवोल्ट्स के आप कुछ एग्जांपल दे सकते हो. डाइवर्सिफाई कैसे करें कि भाई नॉट जस्ट दिस काइंड ऑफ ओपोजिशन बट मॉडर्न ओपोजिशन ऑल्सो. एग्जाम्पल इन द नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट, अल्लूरी सीतारामा राजू in Andhra Pradesh followed non-violent methods initially until 1922. Right. Similarly, in the civil disobedience movement also, violation of peaceful, non-violent violation of forest laws was also done. Right. So in this sense, you can mention that this was the response of the tribals, violent response, and later on, Gandhian response also, as many of the tribals, they also joined the movement of Mahatma Gandhi. ठीक है, तो इस तरीके से हम इसको कर सकते हैं. ठीक. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज हाउ डिड द colonial रूल अफेक्ट, ये तो हो गया. तो बाकी 2019 में they had asked a question on 1857 revolt and pre-1857 revolt also, so this is a recurrent theme, ठीक है, which comes. Social reforms में इस टाइम कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा है. 2019 में they had asked a question, 2021 में they had asked a question, 22, 23, 24. Is it now time for repeat? In 2025 or in 2026? So from that perspective, social reforms become important. Some time has gone by. ठीक. Similarly, moderates and extremists. Moderates के बारे में last question पूछा 2020, 2021. Moderates and extremists के बारे में. तो ठीक ठाक time बीत चुका है. ठीक है. So maybe it is time for repeat. This is how you analyze previous year questions. जो recurrent themes हैं, उसमें एक gap आ गया है. आप खुद सोचो ना, if you are UPSC, आप भी तो ऐसे ही सोचोगे ना कि अच्छा ये important themes हैं, इसके बारे में 3-4 साल से नहीं पूछा है. High potential area बन जाता है. ठीक है ना. Moderate politics, extremist politics, social reforms, right? Then Gandhian era 2024, they asked what were the events that led to Quit India movement. Point out its results. That means this question is like 2 questions. ये सिर्फ point out करना है, elaborate नहीं करना. मतलब 70% of my content should be on first part, 30% content should be on my second part. Look at the words. Point out. Point out क्या होता है? बस देखो वो रहा, देखो वो रहा, देखो वो रहा, ऐसा है ना. Point out करना, elaborate नहीं करना. ठीक है. दैट इज हाउ यू डिसाइड दैट हाउ शुड बी दिस. ठीक है. तो इफ यू थिंक अबाउट दिस, तो व्हाट आर द इवेंट्स विच टुक प्लेस? वेल, द स्टोरी इट एक्चुअली बिगिंस व्हाट यू कॉल एज बाय बिगिनिंग ऑफ द वर्ल्ड वॉर 2. Right, so what are the events which led to? So in 1937 elections happened, Congress was able to win elections, right, and everything was hunky dory, right. यहाँ पे वो स्टूडेंट ज़्यादा सही रहेगा जिसने अपने नोट्स ऑर्गेनाइज तरीके से बना रखे हैं, वरना दिक्कत हो जाएगी, राइट. सो क्या है भाई, 1939 वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 बिगिंस. इवेंट बताने हैं ना, बड़ा फैक्चुअल क्वेश्चन है उस प्रकार से. ठीक है, मतलब मेरे को फैक्ट चाहिए, रीजन तो बताओ, पर मेरे को फैक्ट का नाम चाहिए. दैट इज वॉट द इंटेंट इज, राइट. तो इवेंट क्या है भाई, वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 बिगिंस इन 1939. ब्रिटिशर्स दे वांट सपोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया. That is, Indians, they should join the British Indian Army, fight for British Indian Army, die for British Indian Army and the Empire, right? But the leader of the people by now is Indian National Congress, proven by huge participation in civil disobedience movement, 1930-34. हाँ, तो गांधी जी कहें the way he said in World War 1, नेहरू जी कहें, सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल कहें, नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस कहें, Indians, please join the British Indian Army, then a lot of youth will join, right? And if they say don't join Britishers, then many youth will not join, right? If Indian National Congress says everyone should pay land revenue on time, workers don't do any kind of strike, companies please pay taxes on time because high amount of money is required to fight any war, so continuous supply of money will be there to the British state, so chances of victory will be higher in the World War II. That is what is meant by support in war effort. That is what is meant by support in war effort. So Indian National Congress, second point, second event क्या आ जाएगा? Second event was that Indian National Congress gave certain demands that what about you are fighting against dictatorship? What will I get? If I give human resource, if I give monetary resource, in return what will India get? Please specify clearly. What are your war aims with respect to India? Please specify clearly. Britishers, they were not willing to give it in writing that after the World War II they will give us Poon Swaraj or they will give us dominion status or something. They were reluctant, right? So third event, since the Britishers they rejected the demand, Congress ministries resigned. In 1939, Congress ministries resigned from the provinces. In 1937 elections had taken place, तो बड़े सारे कांग्रेस के चीफ मिनिस्टर बने थे. They resigned as ministers. They resigned as ministers, right? So Britishers they got panicked, right? Britishers they panicked. So Britishers they came out with what? They came out with August Offer, 1940, right? So in August Offer 1940, right? So you can elaborate some things about the August Offer 1940. In the August Offer AO 1940, August Offer 1940, what happened? Now here the student can highlight that from August of 1940 onwards, India rapidly moved towards independence as well as partition. इंडिया रैपिडली मूव टुवर्ड्स इंडिपेंडेंस, मतलब ऐसा बोलने को बोल सकते हो, ऐसा मतलब कंक्लूजन बोल सकते हो कहीं पे भी, ठीक है ना. तो इन ऑगस्ट ऑफ 1940 आवर डिमांड वाज डोमिनियन स्टेटस, राइट, आफ्टर द वॉर, ठीक है ना. मतलब आवर डिमांड वाज पूर्ण स्वराज आफ्टर द वॉर, whereas Britishers they were ready to give only dominion status after the war, right. Plus our demand was transfer of power, executive power at the center immediately. Britishers, they were not ready. What do you mean by transfer of power? Transfer of power means all the minister at the center should be Indians, right, and viceroy should be powerless president. So ऐसा our demand था. That was rejected by August offer. So therefore broadly because of these two major reasons, August offer failed, right. So this is one event. However, in August offer, Britishers are giving veto to Muslim League with respect to drafting of constitution. So they are saying that after the war, Britishers will give you dominion status, not Purn Swaraj, and the constitution will be, which will be drafted, right, there until and unless Muslim League is saying yes to any article, till that time, that article, if Muslim League says no to any article, then that article will not become part of the constitution. So this is how veto is being given to Muslim League, right. So this is like veto to Muslim League over unity of India. For example, let's the article says they shall be united India, they shall be Union of India. Muslim League members, they will vote no, the article will not be able to become part of the constitution, right. So that is the meaning of the, मतलब ये आप brief में mention कर सकते हो, primary focus events पे है. After the failure of the August offer in 1940, now there is pressure that what should be done, right. So therefore then in 1941 we started what you call as, you can also highlight events are like after August of 1940 we began individual satyagraha because there was pressure on Mahatma Gandhi to do something because Britishers, they are not listening to us at all. So individual satyagraha was started in 1940. Do you remember individual satyagraha? Individual satyagraha में basically individual satyagraha मतलब you don't have to do satyagraha while you are in a group, right. So plan is you get up, you go there and you do satyagraha. We'll wait for your call, right. When you are arrested by the police, right, call us, and then you go, you do satyagraha. When you get arrested by police, you call us, then you go, you do satyagraha. Individual satyagraha, ऐसा ग्रुप में नहीं करना है, भीड़ इकट्ठा नहीं करना है, इंडिविजुअल सत्याग्रह, ठीक. तो ऐसा, तो खैर वो इंडिविजुअल सत्याग्रह, उसमें आप हाईलाइट कर सकते हो दैट डिमांड ऑफ सत्याग्रह वाज नॉट टू बी स्वराज बट इट वाज डिमांड फॉर फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड एक्सप्रेशन, एंड यू विल मेक अ एंटी वॉर स्पीच दैट इंडिया इज अगेंस्ट वॉर, इंडिया इज अगेंस्ट वॉर, दिस वॉर इज इम्पोज्ड ऑन अस, ऐसा, राइट. एंड वंस यू नो, सो इट गॉट कन्वर्टेड इनटू जेल भरो आंदोलन, राइट. तो ऐसा दिस थिंग, राइट. एंड दिल्ली चलो मूवमेंट, दैट इज until you are not arrested, continue marching to Delhi. After this, in June 1941, USSR attacked Germany. In December 1941, Japan attacked the US, right. Then Japan started like winning, etc. in the initial phase. So Indian National Congress again demanded to the Britishers that take support of the Indian National Congress in the war effort. We'll ask Indians to join you, etc., etc. But please do immediate transfer of power and promise पूर्ण स्वराज आफ्टर वॉर, ठीक. सारे मंत्री इंडियन कर दो, अंग्रेजों ने रिजेक्ट कर दिया. देन जापान कैप्चर्ड बर्मा अराउंड 1941, दिसंबर 1941 से मई 1942 के बीच में जापान कैप्चर्ड बर्मा, राइट. नाउ ब्रिटिशर्स पैनिक्ड, right. Therefore, to get support of the Indian National Congress in the war effort, they sent Stafford Cripps to India, that is Cripps Mission 1942. In that Cripps Mission 1942, the Britishers, Cripps crumbled India into small parts. Basically, ले दे के simple point ये है, in the Cripps Mission of 1942, Britishers, they said that once the war is over, after that there will be dominion status. However, if any province is unhappy with the constitution which has been framed, then it will be separated from India. If any princely state is not happy with the constitution which has been framed, then that princely state will continue to be not part of India. Matlab, if there were 11 provinces in India and 571 princely states in India, then theoretically there can be technically 571 plus 11 countries in India. Balkanization of India. Okay. So therefore we are totally, unhappy with this, right? Next, we wanted that, okay, you do transfer of executive power. But Britishers, they said no. Viceroy will not be powerless president. Yes, we will have more Indians. We can have more Indians as ministers. But Viceroy will not be powerless. He can overrule decision of any minister. Right? So therefore, Mahatma Gandhi said, ki, when will give us a dominion status? After war. When will the Constituent Assembly set up? After war. Right? When will the constitution will be framed? After war. When we'll get to know about whether India will stay united or not? After war. Right now what we are getting? So-called potential transfer of power. But there also, Viceroy can undo decision of any Indian minister. So what are you giving us? Everything is after. तो वाह, you are ready to take, हम तो तुमको अभी सपोर्ट देने वॉर में, और तुमने जो हमें देना वो सब देना है कब? आफ्टर वॉर. That is why Gandhiji called it post-dated check. That right now you are not giving us anything substantive. Everything is future. While you want Indian lives to be totally given into your hands, you want Indian resources totally, in your hands, etc. You don't want us to oppose also, etc. Right? So that's why once the Cripps mission failed, 1942 में, and now there was major fear. And this comes the crucial answer of this. मतलब ये तो आप one line में कर दोगे, ठीक है ना? Quit India movement 1942 was, ऐसा एग्जाम में मत लिखना पर मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ. क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट 1942 एग्जाम में अच्छे वर्ड्स में लिखना. was not launched against British. मतलब it was not, its target was not British. It was launched against British, but its target was not British. Its target was Japan. Right? That explains the U-turn of Mahatma Gandhi. In 1939, when the World War II began, Mahatma Gandhi believed that Japan will be defeated. Right? But Mahatma Gandhi did not want to disturb the Britishers at all. So Mahatma Gandhi was in favor of unconditional support to the British in the World War II. What happened in 1942? That Mahatma Gandhi is overriding the objections by rest of the Indian National Congress leaders and starting Quit India movement. वक्त बदल गया, हालात बदल गए, जज्बात बदल, क्या बदला? Now Mahatma Gandhi had this thought that maybe Britishers will get defeated by Japan. And Japan, which does not give democracy to its own people, because it is a excess power dictatorship, if it is able to take over India, it has already reached Burma, then all the efforts of the Indian national movement leaders, the moderates, the extremists, right, the revolutionaries, the Gandhians, all of their effort will go to dustbin. At least till now we have Government of India Act 1935, right, which basically gives, a partial democracy at center, at least theory mein deta tha, and proper chief minister at provinces. Right? At least we had attained partial democracy by Government of India Act 1935. And we'll go back to zero. Because that Japan which does not give democracy to its own people, why it will give any kind of democracy to Indian people? If it is able to remove the Britishers from India. Right? And therefore, if the Britishers they get defeated by the British, if the Britishers they get defeated by the Japs, then it has been 10 years since the civil disobedience movement. Right? That people of India must have become slightly lazy by not having a movement since 10 years. So therefore, to basically arouse nationalism among Indians, Mahatma Gandhi started Quit India movement 1942. Proof hai, there were two plans in the Congress resolution. One plan was how to oppose the British. Second plan was how to do non-cooperation against the Japanese if they come. Right? So actually it was the fear, right, of the Japanese. मतलब और इसको आप एग्जाम में लिख सकते हो, कोई controversy theory नहीं है, ठीक है? It was actually this belief that Britishers they will run away, the way they ran away from Singapore, the way they ran away from Malaysia, right, the way they ran away from Burma, without protecting the people of those countries, without protecting the NRI community. Similarly, they will, with tail in their legs, if they ran away from India, then who will defend India? So Mahatma Gandhi actually adopted middle path. Mahatma Gandhi is finding middle path, asking Indians to come out and do, right, do or die, but asked soldiers to not resign, asked bureaucrats to not resign. The primary weapon of the British against the Japs is what? Army and bureaucracy, right? मतलब civil machinery and military machinery. तो उनके आप देखो गांधी जी की जो स्पीच है उसमें वो कहते हैं soldiers don't resign, continue fighting Japan, but don't fire on your own people. Bureaucrats don't resign, but declare that you are loyal to Indian National Congress. Right? So the core things, major things which are required by the Britishers to defeat the Japanese, वो महात्मा गांधी टच नहीं कर रहे. Other things में to motivate the Indians, Mahatma Gandhi is asking the people to come out on the streets and start do or die. So Mahatma Gandhi is trying to follow a middle path. That is, he is prepared for the worst case scenario also. ठीक है ना? तो Britishers को बिना critically weaken किए, how you can motivate the Indians to be ready to resist the Japs if they come. Right? This is what, you know, the position of Shekhar Bandyopadhyay is, by the way. Right? And that explains many things also. Right? So therefore, ऐसा point out जो result करने हैं, result में तो simply point out, you can write down, it was the first movement where whole of India participated. That means people of the princely states, they also participated. Therefore, it laid the foundation of integration of India post-independence. Right? Second point, you can mention that because of participation in the, because all the Congress leaders were in jail during the Quit India movement, therefore Muslim League got free hand to spread it communalism, and therefore it increased the chances of Muslim League to get its Pakistan. है ना? Because 1945 में Quit India movement ended because these leaders, they will released from jail. Within 2 years Pakistan बना लिया ना जिन्ना ने, because he got 3 years of free operation. Right? He got 3 years of free operation. ठीक है ना, ऑफ स्प्रेडिंग कम्युनलिज्म. कम्युनलिज्म का ब्लैकमेल भी किया था, लोगों को बोला था दैट इन दिसंबर 1945 इलेक्शन इफ यू डू नॉट वोट फॉर मुस्लिम लीग देन वी विल एंश्योर दैट यू आर नॉट गिवन प्रॉपर बुरियल एंड देन यू विल स्टे इन हेल फॉरएवर. नन ऑफ योर फैमिली मेंबर्स विल बी अलाउड प्रॉपर बुरियल. ऐसा ब्लैकमेल किया था. हाँ
सर, वो अगर महात्मा गांधी का ऐसा इंटेंट था कि दे डोंट वांट टू वीकन ब्रिटिश अगेंस्ट द जापानीज, तो सर ब्रिटिश को अंडरस्टैंड करके उन्होंने उनको अर्ली अरेस्ट क्यों कर दिया? क्विट इंडिया में
क्या करती है? अर्ली
अरेस्ट ही कर लिया था ना सर. क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट के स्टार्टिंग में उनको टेम्पो बनाने नहीं दिया था.
हाँ, तो मैं ये थोड़ी कह रहा हूँ दैट देयर वाज अ कॉन्स्पिरेसी बिटवीन महात्मा गांधी एंड द ब्रिटिश. मतलब ये पूछ रहे हैं कि ऐसा क्यों हुआ दैट इफ दिस वाज द इंटेंट ऑफ द महात्मा गांधी देन व्हाई महात्मा गांधी वाज अरेस्टेड. अरे भाई, तो मैं ये थोड़ी कह रहा हूँ कि 60-60 चल रही है. मैं देशद्रोही थोड़ी बता रहा हूँ. महात्मा गांधी को अजीब बात कर रहे हो तुम. महात्मा गांधी के सामने एक एथिकल डिलेमा है. महात्मा गांधी कह रहे हैं कि ब्रिटिश आर इविल एंड जापानीज आर इवन बिगर इविल फ्रॉम द माइंड ऑफ महात्मा गांधी. ठीक, बट व्हाट इफ द ब्रिटिशर्स दे गेट डिफीटेड, देन हु विल फाइट फॉर इंडिया? इंडियन पीपल शुड बी रेडी टू फाइट. तो मुझे इन्हें एनर्जाइज करना है, तो क्या करूं मैं? How can I, without critically weakening the British, how can I motivate the Indian people to, you know, resist if the Japanese come? So army, you don't resign. Civil servants, you do not resign, right? But just don't target the people. I'm asking the people to come out on the streets, right? So therefore, this is how he's doing. Okay, result-wise, you can mention this thing that point out its results. So I told you, first result is first time whole of India participated. Right. Second point, you can mention that in the Quit India movement there was zero communal violence, total absence of communal violence. That statement is very, very important because that proves Jinnah wrong. This fear is all fake fear, right? That in India minorities are under threat. When no police was there on the ground, at that point of time, even supporters of the Muslim League, they are also not targeted by the people who are out on the streets doing violence. Right? So therefore, there was total absence of communal violence. That tells us about the civilizational ethics of India, and that proves Jinnah wrong. That it was just a narrative that in India minorities are under threat. Minorities are under threat. Right? That is fake. So second point ये हो गया. Third point that you can mention is the result of the Quit India movement. Third point you can mention that after the end of the Quit India movement, you know, there was, or you can participation पे एक दो बोल सकते हो, that very high participation of peasants was there. Women leaders like Sucheta Kriplani, Aruna Asaf Ali, right, Usha Mehta, they provided leadership. Apart from, you can name some other leaders apart from Jayaprakash Narayan, Achyut Patwardhan, right, Ram Manohar Lohia, है ना. तो ऐसा एक आप बोल सकते हो. ऐसा नेक्स्ट रिजल्ट आप बोल सकते हैं दैट आफ्टर द क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट, राइट, इन 1945 this, during after the Quit India movement, 1945, this Shimla conference took place, right? So a fast movement towards independence began. और एक last conclusion में आप बोल सकते हो, last concluding line can be that immediately after Quit India movement, during the Quit India movement 1942-45, there was also INA from 1942 to 1945, plus naval mutiny 1946 in India, plus INA agitations 1945-46 in India in favor of INA men who were put on trial. Therefore, अब थोड़ा सा रिस्क लेना है, मैं हो तो मैं तो लेता. Therefore, in a way, it was repeat of 1857 revolt. That is, civil population is also out on the streets, violence. INA was nothing but Sepoy mutiny. So what was 1857 revolt? Sepoy mutiny plus civil rebellion. And therefore, Britishers, या फिर ये तो आप हर किताब में लिखा ही होता है, Britishers, they lost faith in the army and they knew that people are now restless and therefore they decided to leave India. Because only with the help of the army they were able to rule India. ठीक है, तो इस तरीके से आप एक कंक्लूजन बना सकते हैं. ठीक है ना? That was a result of the Quit India movement. मतलब आप ऐड कर दिए कि apart from Quit India movement, INA thing also happened, and therefore after INA and after naval mutiny 1946 and after Quit India movement, Britishers knew that next movement will overthrow them violently. Therefore, they now rapidly move towards independence of India. ठीक है, ऐसा एक कंक्लूजन आप लिख सकते हैं. नेक्स्ट इज व्हाट यू कॉल एज ब्रेक लेना है क्या, या पूरा ही कर दें? पूरा ही कर देते हैं यार. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट इज व्हाट वाज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन महात्मा गांधी एंड रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर विद रिस्पेक्ट टू देयर अप्रोच टुवर्ड्स एजुकेशन एंड नेशनलिज्म. ठीक है ना? तो इसको आप ऐसे समझिए, ये आ गया बाउंसर क्वेश्चन. एक्चुअली रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर इज अ थिंकर. He made very less contribution to the Indian national movement, right? So therefore, usually you study about Rabindranath Tagore. Ideally, one should study about Rabindranath Tagore in ethics as a thinker. He is known as a intellectual, as a thinker. पर चलो ठीक है, क्वेश्चन आ गया और आपने पढ़ा हुआ है. अगर आपको कुछ बेसिक चीज पता है तो हाउ टू अप्रोच दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, राइट? Rabindranath Tagore is a international man. Rabindranath Tagore is a international man. ठीक है? So he believes in internationalism, right? Internationalism means, and on the other side, Mahatma Gandhi is nationalistic person, right? Internationalism means that he's a kind of a person for whom borders do not matter. If borders don't matter and there is universal brotherhood, then we are human first, Indian later, Pakistani later, US citizen later, European later. We are all human first, right? So unity across the borders, that would automatically lead to anti-nationalism sentiment, right? So internationalism means no borders, universal brotherhood. It would also imply that if there are no borders, then what will happen? To think of borders as holding some water, pink water, yellow water, blue water. If you remove those borders, then what will happen? Water will start mixing. Right? So therefore, naturally, in the domain of culture, he wanted cultural synthesis. He's like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, right? That is, whatever is the best in the different cultures of the world, it should all mix together for the overall welfare of the humanity. Right? He would be naturally against any kind of fighting on the basis of nationalism. Right? That is French nationalism versus German nationalism leading to World War I. He'll be against these kind of things. Right? So that is the spirit of Rabindranath Tagore with respect to the concept of nationalism. Right? इसी पे elaborate कर सकते हैं. Second aspect with respect to education. With respect to education, Mahatma Gandhi is a person. Right? With respect to education, Mahatma Gandhi is a person who is like utilitarian person. Right? Who is like utilitarian person. ठीक है ना? तो इस मतलब एजुकेशन शुड लीड टू सम काइंड ऑफ, मैं इसको थोड़ा स्ट्रक्चर कर देता हूँ आपको, तब मैं थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हो रहा हूँ माइंड में, किस माइंड में कि कितना डीप जाऊँ मैं इंट्रोडक्शन में. तो इंट्रोडक्शन में थोड़ी सी देना चाहता था, उसके बाद आई वांटेड टू कम टू लाइक पॉइंट बाय पॉइंट ऑफ रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर एंड रॉय. तो इंट्रोडक्शन के हिसाब से विद रिस्पेक्ट टू नेशनलिज्म, ऑन वन साइड यू हैव इंटरनेशनलिज्म ऑफ रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर, ऑन वन साइड यू हैव नेशनलिज्म ऑफ महात्मा गांधी. That's the introduction. In the domain of education, well, उसको summarize कैसे करूँ? You can say that Rabindranath Tagore was more what you call as into intellect, right? Whereas Mahatma Gandhi was more into what is the use of intellect. That is education for self-sufficiency. Economic self-sufficiency. मतलब ऐसे कुछ आप introduction दे सकते हो. Now when you come towards point by point, so for example, if you think about Mahatma Gandhi, so think about Mahatma Gandhi as a person. If I talk about education, so Mahatma Gandhi is a man of the poor. Mahatma Gandhi is poor man or poor man's neta. He wants such education system which will help remove the poverty ASAP. Right? So he wants such an education system which will teach vocation, which teaches people to be carpenter, which teaches people to be electrician, right? Vocational education, right? So therefore he wants to integrate. He does not believe in just books, right? He wants कि जो book में लिखा है उसको करना कैसे, right? So if electrical circuit is being taught in the book, तो यहाँ electrical circuit रखो so that this person can become electrician ASAP if he wants to. And get rid of poverty of his family. Utility होना चाहिए एजुकेशन का. क्यों पढ़ें? गरीब किसान क्यों अपने बच्चों, गरीब आदमी क्यों अपने बच्चों को स्कूल भेजे? So that there is some utility, right? So he is poor man's champion. Why education? To remove poverty. So design the syllabus of the education in such a manner, right, that you are able to remove poverty, that you are able to promote vocational studies, that you are able to create some kind of job ASAP from the education system, right? Learning by doing, right? So some utility. So he's a utilitarian person, right? Apart from this, if you think about Tagore, so Tagore is Maslow ka self-actualization man, elite man. Rabindranath Tagore is elite man, elite person. Tagore, है ना? So rich. Dwarkanath Tagore, Debendranath Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, right? Very rich people, Thakur family, right? Britishers, they could not pronounce Thakur, so therefore they said Tagore, right? So it became Tagore, very rich. So they are at the Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, and Rabindranath Tagore wanted people to reach self-actualization. Right? So how should be the education? Education should be such which creates thinking man, who wonders that what is my best creativity, right? Which creates a person who is what you call a global citizen, right? Who knows about different cultures, who learns different languages, right? Who is proficient in reading Indian poetry and also Shakespeare and all. Right? He's a global citizen who is capable because of such an education that he can contribute not just to India but to the whole world. Right? Aesthetics. How many poems do you know? Right? As a high level person. Right? So therefore, Gandhiji poor man club, Rabindranath Tagore elite man club. Right? Such an education system. Right? Such an education system. Should one forget his own culture? No. That is a commonality between Gandhiji and Tagore. That is, they should be, cultural roots both should be held. Right? Similarly, for example, Mahatma Gandhi is a person of politics. Right? So he embedded cultural nationalism into the education system, Swadeshi education. That is, remember Swadeshi movement? How Swadeshi education was promoted. So education system should be such that a person becomes culturally nationalistic and is not brown sahib. That is brown from outside and British from inside. So therefore culturally nationalistic education should be there. So that the common person develops nationalism also, and in a way learns nationalism plus learns satyagrah, right? Plus joins the Indian national movement, right? Whereas Rabindranath Tagore, he believed more in patriotism. Like, he believed in unity of the community, but he felt that nationalism it is narrow. Nationalism prevents unity between French and Germans. Nationalism prevents unity between Indians and British. Why? Because this is British nation, this is Indian nation, right? So he was a critic of the concept of nationalism. So he would want to create what you call as internationalism. His focus would be internationalism. With respect to the syllabus, वो भी बता दी मैंने आपको. The syllabus would be very creative thoughts, right? मतलब creative syllabus would be there, right? Intellect and different kind of disciplines. A balanced syllabus was there from the Rabindranath Tagore side, but Mahatma Gandhi का जो syllabus है, it will be more oriented towards vocational studies, right? Also one difference, same syllabus for both girls as well as boys as per Rabindranath Tagore, but as per Mahatma Gandhi, you know, up till class 5th there should be same syllabus. Then as per the different capabilities of man and women or boy and girl, different kind of syllabus should be for the ladies. For example, he advocated home science should be a subject which should be studied by ladies, right? तो उसमें मतलब थोड़ा सा उनका ये था कि place of the ladies is majorly home, ठीक है? तो एक थोड़ा सा वो एक element आता उनका बीच में, ठीक है? तो ये है. Apart from this, Mahatma Gandhi wanted education on the basis of tools, right? So that vocation जैसे उस तरीके से, जबकि place of education for Rabindranath Tagore was natural setting. राइट तो मतलब सिंपल वे में महात्मा गांधी चाहेंगे कि एजुकेशन चल रही है कारखाने में, ठीक है? मतलब किताब भी है और साथ में हथौड़ा या सिलाई मशीन वो भी है, लर्न बाय डूइंग. रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर नेचुरल सेटिंग अंडर ट्री, ठीक, घूमते घूमते जंगलों में, नेचर के बीच में, ठीक है? नेचुरल सेटिंग में ऐसा मतलब एजुकेशन होना चाहिए. मतलब एक हाई लेवल, दैट पीस, दैट सेरेनिटी, वो एलीट वाला कॉन्सेप्ट, मतलब जैसे बहुत एलीट टाइप के रिजॉर्ट में एजुकेशन होना चाहिए वैसा, ठीक है? वाला सिस्टम है. तो ये है, तो मतलब इस तरीके से यू कैन कंपेयर. टीचर स्टूडेंट डायलॉग में ज़्यादा विश्वास रखते थे रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर, ठीक है? दैट इज तभी तो थिंकिंग मैन वाला कॉन्सेप्ट वुड बी देयर. तो यही है, दिस इज थिंग. So this is a major differences which are there with respect to nationalism and with respect to education. Next, that if we talk about 150 words क्या लिखना था, ठीक है? Then next, if you look at next question, that is ये हो गया. If you look at the PT 2025, so a lot of questions were asked on non-cooperation. मतलब 2-3 क्वेश्चंस वर आस्क्ड ऑन नॉन कोऑपरेशन, ठीक है? मतलब चौरी चौरा वाला इशू भी नॉन कोऑपरेशन से रिलेटेड था, राइट? देन नॉन कोऑपरेशन प्रोग्राम वाला इशू भी था. तो ऐसा 2-3 क्वेश्चन आ गया. तो मतलब मुझे ऐसा पर्सनली लगता है दैट मे बी इन द मेंस, ऑब्वियसली हर कोई पढ़ता ही है, मे बी इन द मेंस दे विल नॉट आस्क एनी क्वेश्चन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू नॉन कोऑपरेशन, बिकॉज वो प्रीलिम्स में डिसेंटली कवर हो गया. मे बी दे विल गो फॉर सम अदर टॉपिक, ठीक है? ऐसा दिस काइंड ऑफ सिनेरियो, राइट? इफ आई लुक अबाउट वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री एंड पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया, हाँ जी. So looking at the personality of Mahatma Gandhi, so he was also what you call as a social reformer, right? So in the domain of the social reform, we can find 3 very important figures. For example, that is your Raja Ramohan Roy, B.R. Ambedkar ji, and Swami Dayanand Saraswati, right? Where some similarities and some differences exist in their social reform ideology. For example, Swami Dayananda Saraswati also believed in Varnashram system, was against casteism. Mahatma Gandhi was also against casteism, right? Swami Dayananda Saraswati was a cultural nationalist, wanted freedom from foreign influence. He called it Swarajya. And Mahatma Gandhi was also a great cultural nationalist, right? He criticized Western capitalism. He criticized Western class concept, right? He wanted village-based economies, right? उस तरीके से. तो Roy is a person who is also the first kind of like social reformer. UPSC gives a lot of importance to Raja Rammohn Roy, his thought process, etc. He also used religion for social reforms. Mahatma Gandhi also did positive use of religion for politics as well as social reforms. ऐसा तो वो हो सकता है. And तीसरा with respect to the caste issue, right? B.R. Ambedkar ji, a very aggressive approach with respect to anti-caste politics, and Mahatma Gandhi ji slightly milder approach with respect to anti-caste politics. A lot of work was done, right? The government of India also recently started celebrating Constitution Day. Ambedkar ji हैं, कुछ political controversy भी हुआ था पीछे Ambedkar ji पे, right? Constitution etc. तो मतलब maybe UPSC can ask you to compare Mahatma Gandhi with B.R. Ambedkar ji, and politically there is only one competitor to Mahatma Gandhi, and that is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Right, because Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose also had brilliant qualities, right? So, in fact, in 2016 UPSC mains में they asked what were the ideological differences between Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and between Mahatma Gandhi, right? तो उस तरीके से मतलब और तो किससे आप कंपेयर करोगे, तो मतलब उस तरीके से हो सकता है. और हाँ मतलब मेजरली मतलब यही बनता है एक कंपैरिजन जो बन सकता है. रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर जी थिंकिंग डोमेन में आ गए कि भाई एज अ थिंकर. सोशल रिफॉर्म डोमेन में दीज थ्री बिग पर्सनैलिटीज, इफ यू वांट टू ऐड स्वामी विवेकानंदा मतलब यू कैन ऐड स्वामी विवेकानंदा. एंड पॉलिटिकल डोमेन में नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस, बिकॉज देयर सम डिस्प्यूट्स आर आल्सो देयर. दिस इज हाउ यू कैन कंपेयर. यस. Yeah, Gandhiji was pro-women, yes.
So, sir, how is this not both the statement contradictory, that being in home and then coming out of home?
Things, they can be different, but they can be equally good. Two drinks can be different, but they can be equally tasty. But are you understanding what I'm saying? Equality is, one kind of equality is that the two equalities are like exactly same. Right, that is, men should do exactly the same things which women do. Women should do exactly the same things which men do. That is like one form of equality. Another form of equality can be qualitatively different, but overall like equal. What are the strengths of men? What are the strengths of women? And accordingly, you allow them the opportunity to excel there economically also and through other means also. Right. Yes. So therefore Mahatma Gandhi would go in the second category, right? So ऐसा. So therefore he believes that men are capable in different things, women are capable in different things, right? उनमें उन respective fields में, respective area of strengths में they should be empowered. Those who oppose Mahatma Gandhi at times they use this to call him slightly patriarchal. एक वो चीज़ हो जाती है. Second aspect is कि up till class 5 like common syllabus, right? And after class 5th also you can divide the syllabus into vocational studies and literary studies. Okay, so some basic education, right? This kind of thing. So this is how that's the answer to you. I feel that this like a good list one can prepare. Can use this in ethics also. Can use this in essay also. Next question, Hanji. बोलिए.
Sir, which personality can we consider from South India?
Which personality we can consider from South India? Well, with respect to caste, you can say UPSC also asked question about Periyar, right? So therefore, you can do some research with respect to what were the differences, right, and commonalities with respect to anti-untouchability between Mahatma Gandhi and Periyar.
Apart from Professor E.V. Ramaswamy Periyar, like.
हाँ वो पेरियार ही तो है.
नहीं कुछ और पर्सनालिटी जो
E.V. रामास्वामी नायकर पेरियार ही हैं.
नहीं मतलब इसके अलावा कोई और.
इसके अलावा
कम्युनिटी मिलती है.
इसके अलावा एक्चुअली मेजरली बड़ी पर्सनालिटीज़ में तो जो जिसे कहते हैं मतलब उस स्टेचर की मतलब एक कंपैरिजन वाला चीज़ है, तो मेजर पर्सनैलिटी वही हैं. पॉलिटिक्स में सी राजगोपालाचारी वॉज वेरी सीनियर लीडर, राइट. तो बट आई डोंट थिंक ऐसे कंपेयर करेंगे, ठीक है ना. तो सोशल में तो रहता है वो.
So from mains perspective, we can focus on.
हाँ, with the mains perspective. Although mains and prelims are not different in UPSC. At one point of time, UPSC compared Karl Marx and Mahatma Gandhi. That please tell us which of the following were common to Mahatma Gandhi and Karl Marx. That will be like a commonality. At that, inter-subject linkages are also very, very important. So both demanded stateless society.
How can you find the linkage between like national or international? Like the UPSC has question Karl Marx and Mahatma Gandhi. So can we create like can we compare like Mahatma Gandhi or?
As you search my name on YouTube.
Okay.
Right, one of the अभी तो मैंने काफ़ी टाइम से I have not made video, but there is one video of like half an hour, right, which is basically how do you look at modern history from world history perspective, or interlinkages between world history and modern history, right. So that's actually मतलब value addition. It will not be definitely, it will not be waste of your time, right, but that's like connecting the events which will take place in the world to the modern Indian history. तो ज़्यादा टाइम भी नहीं आपका जाएगा, आप वहाँ से थोड़ा बहुत हिंट ले सकती हो और वहाँ से आप you can think कि अच्छा which all question.
On the Vision IS platform.
हाँ जी.
On the Vision IS platform, sir.
नहीं वो मेरा अपना चैनल मतलब वो मैंने चलाया था, अभी काफ़ी टाइम हो गया, टाइम नहीं मिलता, बट हाँ मतलब उसमें एक है, ऐसा सर्च कर लेना हिमांशु खत्री तो आ जाएगा, ऐसा कोट वोट पहना हुआ मैं ऐसे, ठीक है. तो उसमें जो मतलब टाइम वाइज करेंगे तो सबसे पुरानी जो फर्स्ट वीडियो ही है मेरे ख्याल से, फर्स्ट या सेकंड, तो उसमें विद द हेल्प ऑफ मैप्स एक्सेट्रा एक मैंने आधे घंटे का एक बनाया हुआ है. इट विल बी रियली हेल्पफुल एक्चुअली, ठीक है ना. तो अब करें इसको नेक्स्ट, ठीक है. तो if I look at so this first question, it is from post independence India, and the rest of the 3 questions are from world history, right. So if I think about the question, the political and administrative reorganization of states and territories has been a continuous ongoing process since middle of 19th century. Discuss with examples. First point is that, sir, why it is not a question of world history, nowhere India is written. Second question, sir, is there any difference between states and territories? Right. So answering the second question first, state is the organization that rules a territory and its people. So therefore, yes, indeed, there is a difference between state and territory. Example, if you convert Mizoram from union territory and give it full statehood, so you have not tinkered with the territory at all, you have tinkered with what? With the nature of the organization which is going to rule that territory. Earlier it was union territory like organization, right, maybe with no legislature. Now it is going to have its own chief minister, its own legislature also. Right. So therefore, you have, without doing territorial reorganization, you have done reorganization of the state. Right. So therefore, these are two different things. Second aspect, how to conclude that it is a question of post-independence India, not world history. Nowhere India is written, and world map changed after the World War I. 1850 onwards, a lot of territorial reorganization have taken place in the world also. Answer lies in which word? Can you help me? There is one word in this question which is answer to this question, that how it is related to post-independence India actually. नहीं, after mid 1850s के बाद बहुत सारी changes वहाँ पे भी हुए यार. Unification of Italy हुआ 1870 में, unification of Germany हुआ 1870, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हुई हैं. Administrative, right? So therefore, one is मतलब no one actually expects that what was the administration of different parts of the world. And there is no one system of administration of the whole world, right? So therefore, no one expects that a student would be knowing administrative system and administrative changes of different countries. So administration is something which is local, which is domestic affairs, right? So from that perspective, a student can take a hint that okay, it is about India, right? So it is post-independence India plus modern Indian history combined, right? Because 1850 में तो हम आज़ाद नहीं थे ना, mid 19th century. राइट. सो देयरफॉर अब ऐसे इसका अगर हम देखें तो लेट्स सी. सो डिफरेंट रीजंस वर देयर. फॉर एग्जांपल 1850 से स्टार्ट करना ना, तो 1853 में मतलब फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू बिगिन विद चार्टर, राइट, और 1850 में और थोड़ा सा 2-4 साल आगे पीछे चले जाते. कैसी आवाजें निकाल लो यार. ठीक है, 2-4 years you can go back, ठीक है, no issues there. So for example, you say territory and state, territory मतलब ये ज़मीन है, and the organization which is ruling it, these are two separate things which are there, right? (1849) after the Second Anglo-Sikh War, 1848-49, Punjab was annexed into the company state. So therefore, the territory of the company state is expanding. British India size, it is expanding. We know that Dalhousie 4856, that is 1848 to 56, he was responsible for many annexations on the grounds of doctrine of lapse. So he was an empire builder personality. He expanded the size of the British India to its max. Right? Dalhousie also took a territory called Berar from Hyderabad. Why? Because Hyderabad could not pay subsidy. So some territory was annexed on grounds of non-payment of subsidy. This was done in 1853. Right? We have reached 1850s. Right? Then we have this Charter 1853. Charters were actually constitutions of the company state. Right? And therefore constitution, their primary purpose is to create or modify the structure of the state. And the question is about reorganization of states and territories. Right? So therefore, see, in 1853 charter, one of the administrative structure of the state is changed. That is, the bureaucracy is now going to be recruited through an exam, our UPSC exam. It is a big administrative change that now there is going to be UPSC exam. Charter 1853 said that there should be exam for covenanted civil services, that is Group A civil services. So this is a big administrative change or not? Administration is part of the state only. Take an organization, head of the state and each administration. Minister administers. So it is part. Then apart from this, in Charter 1853, another thing was there, that there can be a Chief Minister of Bengal if the Prime Minister, that is Governor General of India, wants. So Governor General of India was empowered that if you want to decrease your load, because you are acting since 1833, you are acting as Chief Minister as well as Prime Minister. If you want to reduce your load and you want to appoint some other person as Chief Minister of Bengal, that is Lieutenant Governor of Bengal, then you can. And that was done in 1854. In 1854, Dalhousie appointed someone as LG of Bengal. That is also administrative change. Now it is going to have its own Lieutenant Governor. Right? So nature of the state, it is changing. Okay. Then if you come towards the 1858, so Government of India Act 1858, the whole state structure changed, company state was ended and it was replaced with the British state, plus sovereignty over whole of India was taken over. Right? So it is very big structure changed. Right? The nature of the state itself is changing. 1858 Government of India Act, company state is ending and British state, which ruled territory of Britain, is now going to directly rule India. Right? Government of India Act 1858, you can mention here that how GGI became Viceroy, how President of Board of Control became Secretary of State for India, how Mughal sovereignty was ended and replaced by Queen Victoria, right? That is British sovereignty. These are some of the factors that you can mention, right? And you can take it to, and now India was to have 571 princely states and provinces of British India, right? So that becomes the state structure which is going to rule in territory of India. ठीक. After that no annexations took place, so territory addition from the Indian states तो British India में नहीं हो रही, ठीक, but from outside of India हो रहा है, ठीक है, outside of India में भी नहीं हो रहा, ठीक है. तो after that what is majorly changing is the state structure, right? After that what is majorly changing is state structure and territorial reorganization within India, right? For example, the Indian Councils Act 1861, it created ILC, PLC, it created VEC, GEC, Imperial Legislative Council, a separate legislature at the center, Viceroy's Executive Council, a separate executive as the center, Governor Executive Council and Provincial Legislative Council at the province level. So it is a very important change in the state structure. Now there are going to be separate legislature and separate executive councils, right? It also provided that there should be a provincial legislative council for Punjab, Bengal and NWFP, ऐसा भी propose किया था. मतलब उसमें आप जाएंगे अपने notes में देखेंगे तो NIC 1861 में there are features which are changing some things. इसके key highlights you can mention, ठीक है ना, बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं. Now if you'll move ahead, so इसके बाद क्या हुआ 1861, then well in 1874 Assam was given UT status, Union Territory status. 1824-26 First Anglo-Burma War took place. In 1826 Assam was annexed by stabbing Assam in the back. Until now, until 1874 Assam was ruled by Governor General, right? मतलब बंगाल प्रेसिडेंसी को जो भी रूल करेगा वो इसको रूल करता, right? From 1854 till 1874 it was Lieutenant Governor of Bengal who was ruling it. Right now it is given UT status. UT was called Chief Commissioner Province. Today in UT we have LG. In those times in UT we used to have Chief Commissioner. So UT को बोला जाता है Chief Commissioner Province. Right, Chief Commissioner Province. Right, in 1874 this was there. Then as we move ahead in 1900, in 1901 या फिर और भी आ जाते हैं तो इसमें 1856 में अवध भी ऐड करना पड़ेगा. अनेक्सेशन ऑफ अवध इंपॉर्टेंट था, 1856 में ऐड हुआ लास्ट बिग, ठीक. तो इफ आई थिंक अबाउट अवध, ठीक, तो हाफ ऑफ अवध वाज अनेक्स्ड इन 1801, रेस्ट ऑफ द अवध वाज अनेक्स्ड इन 1856. दीज टू वर merged together in 1877 and a province was created whose name was Northwest Provinces. अच्छा हाँ, Northwest Provinces and Awadh. Northwest Provinces and Awadh एक नया province बना by bringing the two Awadhs together again. ठीक है. 1801 में half of Awadh was taken over. 1801 में half of Awadh was taken over as permanent payment of subsidy. Rest of Awadh was annexed in 1856. इन दोनों को एक जगह लेके आ गए in 1877 to create Northwest Provinces and Awadh. ठीक. Then in 1902 this was converted into United Provinces of Agra and Awadh. United Provinces of Agra and Awadh 1902 में. In 1937 it was converted into simply UP. UP means United Provinces, right? तो अवध को आप एक जगह इस प्रकार से आप कवर कर सकते हैं, ठीक. Now you go back to this area. So therefore in ठीक है, in 1901 NWFP was separated from Punjab. NWFP was separated from Punjab as a UT, right? So it was given UT status and इसको निकाला गया कहाँ से? From Punjab. ठीक. अब हम आगे 1901 में we are very close to Bengal partition, which is in itself a reorganization, right? So therefore now if you talk about the region of Bengal and Assam, so in 1905 Bengal partition it is proposed whereby you're going to have basically इसको देख लेना नोट से, मैं टाइम कितना जा रहा है. खैर मतलब इसके अंदर in 1905 the area of Bengal and Assam, right, that is Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Assam, ठीक है, उसमें two provinces were going to be there. One is going to be what you call as West Bengal, right? West Bengal was to have what territory? It was to have Bihar, it was to have area of West Bengal, it was to have area of Odisha, right? And plus a new province was to be there called EBA, right? It is going to have East Bengal and Assam. And this is how Union Territory of Assam is now 1874 is now going to be part of full province. ठीक. However, then in 1911 Bengal partition was annulled because of Swadeshi movement, right? And here what becomes the status? The status is now you have a province called Bihar and Odisha, which has territories of Bihar and Odisha. Plus there is a province called Bengal, right, which has territories of West Bengal and East Bengal. Plus full province status is given to Assam. full province status, it is given to Assam, right? Bihar and Odisha breakup happens in 1936. In 1936, a separate Bihar is created, a separate Odisha it is also created, plus you already have a separate Bengal, plus you already have a separate Assam. Plus you already have a separate Assam, right? So therefore the territory of Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Assam, they were reorganized in this particular manner, ठीक है? इनके जो reasons हैं वो आप simultaneously लिख सकते हैं so that your answer does not become too mechanical, but it has some kind of like reason also. Example, reason for Bengal partition was divide and rule and very large population of Bengal. ऐसे ऐसे reasons आप लिख सकते हैं, ठीक? अब इसी में कंटिन्यू करें क्योंकि आज तक का पूछा है ना, ठीक है? तो इसी में कंटिन्यू करें तो 1947 में, राइट, दिस बंगाल वाज पार्टीशनड इनटू वेस्ट बंगाल and East Pakistan, right? Plus East Pakistan also had Sylhet district of Assam, and this became Bangladesh, which is today Bangladesh, sorry गलती से, ठीक है, Bangladesh in 1971, ठीक? So therefore this is how ये पूरा territorial reorganization हो रहा है, और फिर इसमें, ठीक है ना, तो इस तरीके से जा रहे हैं आप, ठीक है? उसके अलावा इफ़ यू थिंक अबाउट मोर, सो कहाँ तक पहुँचे थे लास्ट? 1905 में पहुँचे थे, 1905, सो वी हैव रीच्ड, देन NWFP was given full province status in 1932, right? It is not a UT anymore. In 1932 it was given full province status, right? After the Government of India Act 1935, right, your Sindh was also separated from Bombay, right? It is by Government of India Act 1935. Sindh was separated from Bombay as a new Muslim majority province. As a new Muslim majority province. We have already seen that how in 1936 Bihar and Odisha were also separated, right? So therefore that is a territorial reorganization, and ultimately you can mention that just on the eve of independence, there were actually 11 provinces. There were 11 provinces and 4 CC provinces. 11 provinces and 4 CC provinces, right? ये 11 provinces कौन कौन से थे? लेफ्ट से स्टार्ट करोगे तो NWFP, NWFP के नीचे आओगे तो पंजाब, NWFP सिंध, पंजाब, ठीक? राइट में आओगे तो दिल्ली तो यूनियन टेरिटरी है, तो उसके बाद आ जाएगा आपका यूपी, ठीक है? उसके बाद सेंट्रल प्रोविंसेस, दैट इज मध्य प्रदेश, राइट? नीचे आओगे तो यू हैव बॉम्बे, और नीचे आओगे तो यू हैव व्हाट यू कॉल एज मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी, राइट? देन इफ यू गो अबव मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी, देन यू हैव व्हाट? ओडिशा. देन इफ यू गो अबव ओडिशा यू हैव बंगाल. Then you go left of Bengal, there is plus Assam is there on the right hand side. Plus you go to the left of Bengal, you have Bihar. All right, on the left of Bihar again you have reached UP. ठीक, तो therefore कितने हैं? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. ठीक है, these are the 11 provinces which are there, and 4 union territories were there. Major union territory उसमें what you call as is Delhi, ठीक है? और बाकी 2-3 और नाम है. पता नहीं कहाँ गया, तो ये है. उसके बाद नेक्स्ट ऑब्वियसली यू टॉक अबाउट व्हाट कॉल्ड एज स्टेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट 1956, राइट? पार्टीशन हो गया, उसके बाद 1956 स्टेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट, राइट? सो यू टॉक अबाउट लैंग्वेज बेस्ड रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन, right? Then majorly you talk about the next reorganization takes place in 2000, but उससे भी पहले चीज़ें हुई. For example, in 1963 Nagaland was created, right? Nagaland was created. Then you talk about further reorganization of the Northeast, right? So for example, it is in 1900 what you call as 1975 Sikkim is getting एडेड, ठीक है. उससे पहले 1971 में आई थिंक हिमाचल प्रदेश इट इज़ ऑल्सो गेटिंग क्रिएटेड. मतलब बेसिकली वो सारा डेटा राइट यू कैन ऐड, ठीक है. हाउ डिफरेंट एरिया. टफ वाला जो था वो प्री इंडिपेंडेंस वाला था, वो मैंने आपको लिखवा दिया है, ठीक है. रिऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ द नॉर्थ ईस्ट. उसके बाद 2000 में फ्रॉम बिहार यू हैव झारखंड, प्लस फ्रॉम मध्य प्रदेश यू हैव छत्तीसगढ़, प्लस फ्रॉम यूपी यू हैव उत्तराखंड, एंड देन यू कैन कम अप टिल व्हाट यू कॉल एज recently, whereby the status of Jammu and Kashmir Article 370 was changed, right. You can also mention the autonomous district councils, right, of the 6th schedule, right. So that is also kind of like administrative thing that we had, and therefore this is how you can say that because of different reasons, right, be it what you call as sub-nationalism, that is better governance, right, on the basis of language or movements, right. Example, there was a movement for Jharkhand in 2014. Telangana was created as a result of regional sentiments, historical grievances. So therefore, because of multiple reasons, which is a combination of politics and good governance, right, this kind of reorganization has taken place since middle of 18th century, ठीक है. तो इस तरीके से ये हो जाएगा. Next question that we have is, obviously ये बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब it was very tough question from the perspective of any average student, ठीक है. Very tough because no one prepares like this with focus on reorganization pre 1947, ठीक है. But hint था कैसे UPSC previously was also asked a lot of questions on state reorganization and territory reorganization which happened after 1947. एक बार नहीं कई बार. तो which student was such who thought कि यार when I am reading history, so here also multiple states are being created, right. तो मतलब थोड़ा सा yes it is kind of like a stretch, but हाँ मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि there would be no student who would try to like connect the dots, right. तो ऐसा हाँ जी. बोलिए वहाँ से लो माइक कैमरे पे आ रहे हो आप. हाँ जी
सर, अगर टाइम कंस्ट्रेन है हमारे पास और हमारे पास मतलब लास्ट मैंने सोचा कि ये क्वेश्चन मैं लास्ट में अटैम्प्ट करूँगी, ठीक है, और टाइम कंस्ट्रेन हमारे पास है, तो शुड आई गो फॉर दिस, और कि मैं बाकी जो अगर 2-3 क्वेश्चन बचे हैं तो मैं उन पे ज़्यादा अपना फोकस करूँ या इस पे अपना पूरा फोकस करके लगा दूँ, क्योंकि अगर मैं इसका क्रोनोलॉजी के देखूँ, अगर मिस कर रही हूँ तो मेरा टाइम भी वेस्ट हो रहा है उस क्रोनोलॉजी को याद करने में. तो वो
simple logic is obviously maximize the number of questions, right, minimize the number of questions which you are leaving, right, because even if you write kind of like a average answer, right, it is expected कि चलो यार 40% marks तो मिल ही जाएंगे ना, right, maybe you'll get 4 marks, right, 3/4 are 12 marks that you will get, ठीक है. इस क्वेश्चन को करने पे जाओगे और ऐसा दुविधा है कि इधर attempt this or 3, obviously attempt 3. Minimize the number of questions that you are leaving, right, and tough question they should be done at the last. ठीक है. Next question that we have is this, that how far is it correct to say that World War I was fought essentially for preservation of balance of power, right. So basically how to approach this particular question. So keyword here is essentially. Keyword here is essentially for preservation of balance of power. First, what is the meaning of the word balance of power? Balance of power means if I am the superpower, then in this particular region where my potential opponents are, it should be summation of equal powers. There should not be any one power among all of you who is more superior to me, because that will make me anxious, right. Multipolar world, right, balance of power. I am the superpower, but rest of you are multipolar, multipolarity, balance of power, ठीक. So that is the meaning of the word balance of power. It is, second question is who maintains the balance of power? It is always the present superpower or the present regional power who wants to maintain balance of power. And while maintaining the balance of power, if there was a power who was gradually rising, and I could envision that in future this power can threaten me also, so therefore I'll fight a war and defeat this party, weaken it economically, politically, militarily, and therefore I have maintained balance of power. Germany was the rising power both before World War I, right, as well as before World War II, right. So therefore here the question is trying to basically put the blame on the present superpower, that is Britain. And question statement is that essentially the reason for World War I was that Britain wanted to maintain its superpower status. If you answer yes to that question, then you are putting the blame of World War I majorly on Britain and less on other factors. And if you disagree with this particular statement, that you are saying that major responsibility for the World War I is on the other factors and less on Britain, right, with respect to its desire of maintaining balance of power, right? I'll tell you the answer to this question. Answer to this question is obviously from the ethical principle also in favor of Britain. Why? Because World War I में Britain was part of allied powers who were democracies, right? Whereas empire builder monarchs, they were as part of central powers. Technically, who started the war? It was central powers, Germany, German Empire, Austria-Hungary Empire, who actually started the war, right? They were the ones who, by attacking what you call as Serbia, right? So they were the ones, it was Austria-Hungary Empire who, with support of Germany, attacked Serbia, and therefore that onus is also on them. Okay, so that is the thing. Plus, we need to obviously gather more evidences. So first of all, so this is the overall structure which is there. Okay? Now, if you think about that possibility the points in favor of Britain was responsible for the World War I. So first point of responsibility of Britain is A. Britain did try to maintain balance of power. How? It started encirclement of Germany. It started encirclement of Germany before the World War I, which made Germans anxious that Britain wants to contain us. How? If this is Germany, then this is Britain, this is France, and this is Russia, right? Since 1894, there was a secret military alliance between France and Russia targeted at Germans. That is, if Germany will attack me, you will help me, and if Germany will attack you, I will help you. It was a specific military alliance, limited, directed only towards one country, that is Germany. Secret military alliance. Okay. Then, in 1904, Britain and France, they settled their colonial disputes. Right? Example, France accepted that, okay, Egypt is yours, Sudan is yours. Earlier there was a fight between Britain and France that who will be the colonial power or major beneficiary in the area of northeast Africa, that is Sudan and Egypt, right? They settled their disputes, right? And Britain also accepted that, okay, if you accept Egypt and Sudan, they belong to me, then in Morocco I will support you, right? France wanted Morocco. So what is the map of North Africa? Matle. That is the map of North Africa, right? Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt. ठीक है ना? आत्मनिर्भर बनो, सहारा मत ले, सहारा मत ले, सहारा डेजर्ट, सहारा मत ले, ठीक है? तो राइट, इजिप्ट और नीचे सूडान है, ठीक है ना? ऐसा, दिस इज मोरक्को. So in 1904, Britain and France, they are signing Entente Cordiale, right? Cordial for 1904. Cordial relations, good relations. It is not a military alliance, but it is a kind of like a friendship treaty of friendship, right? In 1907, Britain and Russia, they are also settling their disputes over Iran, over Afghanistan, over Tibet, right? And they also enter into a Britain-Russia agreement, whereby Britain will be doing what you call as foreign direct investment in Russia to help the Russian economy, right? And they also partition Iran. Northern Iran is going to be sphere of influence of Russia. Southern Iran is going to be sphere of influence of Britain, right? Afghanistan and Tibet, they were accepted as spheres of influence of Britain by the Russians. So therefore, finally, Britishers' anxiety with respect to Russians attacking India via Afghanistan, it's laid to rest. Right? So therefore, by 1907, Germany is encircled. This is the map of Europe. Germany के right hand side पे Russia है, Germany के north west side पे Britain है, right? Germany के south और west में France, right? So Germany felt encircled, right? So therefore, this is how anxiety was being created. Apart from this, actions of France from 1900 till 1904 also increased anxiety of Germany. See, the problem with Germany is Germany does not have access to Mediterranean Sea, whereas France does have access to Mediterranean Sea. So this is France. On the right hand side of France, which country is there? ऐसे अजीब सा निकला, Mediterranean Sea में Italy, right? So therefore, where is Germany? Germany is to the north of Italy, right? So Germany has access to northern waters, but Germany does not have access to Mediterranean Sea. And Germany wanted colonies in Africa, right? So how do you enter Mediterranean Sea? From here. And here is what? Morocco. And if Morocco is under control of France, which is enemy of Germany, then there is a problem, right? So therefore, certain French actions, for example, France, it settled its disputes with Italy in 1900, right, whereby Italy said, I will support you in Morocco. France settled its disputes with Spain. France settled its dispute with Spain. They said, आधा Morocco तू रख ले, आधा Morocco मैं रख लूँगा. French Morocco, Spanish Morocco. ठीक. Then France and Britain, they also made settlement in 1904. So this made Germany very, very anxious, right? That earlier there was an agreement that Morocco will remain free. But the way France moved, so therefore this triggered what you call as something called Moroccan crisis, right? Whereby Germans, they called a conference, right? Azo, sare azo. What the hell France, huh? What the France is doing? We had this agreement that nothing will be done in Morocco. 1800s में एक agreement हुआ था, 1890s में एक agreement हुआ था, ठीक? So, but in the conference, everyone sided with France, right? So Germany is seeing that France के साथ Italy भी है, France के साथ Britain भी है, everyone नहीं Morocco तो France का है, देखो Morocco तो France का, right? So Germany felt isolated, right? Isolated, it has no option, right? It is humiliated, right? Then, okay, then around 1911, France stationed its military in Morocco, right? So therefore then Germany understood कि भाई कुछ करना पड़ेगा. There was this small island called Agadir Island, right? So Germany captured this Agadir Island. Now Germany navy is at the mouth of entry of Mediterranean Sea, right? Which created huge anxiety in Britain. Huh? How will I'll reach India? इंडिया के लिए तो पागल है ब्रिटेन, बिल्कुल मैट है ना. हाउ आई रीच इंडिया, हाउ आई रीच इंडिया, बिकॉज सुएज कैनाल यहाँ पे क्रिएटेड इन 1859-69, राइट? सो ह्यूज एंजाइटी, अगादिर क्राइसिस, अगेन अ कॉन्फ्रेंस वाज हेल्ड, अगेन एवरीवन साइडेड ऑन द साइड ऑफ फ्रेंच, राइट? नाउ जर्मनी हैज, एंड जर्मनी को जैसे एक डॉगी को एक कुत्ते को आप देखते हो ना, एक टुकड़ा है ना, right? ऐसा small territory in French Congo was given to Germany. Germany felt greatly humiliated. Germany felt अपना time आएगा. Germany understood that diplomacy is not going to work. If I have to achieve, I'm the second largest power after Britain in Europe. If I have to achieve my ambitions, right, it has to be through war only, right? So therefore, this is how Britain is trying to contain Germany by supporting France. Right? What if tomorrow US starts supporting China to contain rise of India? Right? Something like this. Right? So therefore that is what happened. ठीक है, तो ये आप सब चीजें बोल सकते हो in favor of that Britain was responsible for this thing. Right? 250 words का आंसर है, इसलिए थोड़ा explain कर रहा हूँ. बाकी what were other factors? Well, Germany was responsible. Right? How Germany was responsible? Germany said, I'm the second biggest power in Europe, therefore I should have second largest empire. But number one empire was of Britain, second largest empire was of France. So what Germany wanted? It wanted colonies of France. Obviously no country will be ready to give its colonies, right? So therefore tensions increased between France and Germany, right? Tensions, they took special focus of Morocco, which we have just mentioned, right? Also since 1870 Franco-Prussian war, Russia में P लगा दो Germany बन जाता है. Prussia means Germany. ठीक है, ऐसा आप समझ सकते हैं. There was a Prussian kingdom, right? It was the major kingdom which later on expanded into Germany by taking over other German kingdoms. In 1870 there was this Franco-Prussian war, and coal-rich territory of Alsace-Lorraine, which was at the border of Germany and France, was taken over. And therefore since 1870, for industrial revolution of Germany, coal of France was being used by Germany. So it was also a major pain point, right? So what I'm trying to tell here कि भाई खाली ब्रिटेन ही responsible नहीं है, there is German-France tension which is also contributing to World War II. Why are you only blaming superpower? That is what I'm trying to say, other factors, right? Right? Apart from this, German naval strength was rising, right? And this created anxiety in the heart of British. Because सीधी सी बात है, between colony and your territory, what is there? Pani. Therefore, those who control waters, they will control the colonies. And since German Navy was rising in strength, this made both France and Britain anxious. That what if tomorrow we are cut off from our colonies, right? So Germany was making Britain also anxious, right? Apart from this, Germany till the point of time Bismarck was alive and in power. Till that point of time, Germany knew. Bismarck knew that in 1870, when Germany has been unified, so this Germany is too big for comfort of Britain. Has a lot of resources, right? Has huge area. So therefore, Germany knew that Britain and other countries, they will shiver, right? Because this is going to be very important country then. ठीक है ना? आज के टाइम पे भी number 1 economy of Europe is Germany, right? So therefore, Bismarck was smart. So therefore, after 1870 unification of Germany, Bismarck followed diplomatic path. Bismarck told, don't be worried. कहाँ आप कह रहे हो? कुछ नहीं करेंगे, right? Will not expand, right? But once next king came, that is King Wilhelm II, right? He, after that, he removed Bismarck, right? Bismarck was old also. After that, he followed very reckless, very aggressive foreign policy, right? So therefore, blame is also on King Wilhelm, right? Because of this thing. Then there was this Schlieffen Plan of Germany. What was the Schlieffen Plan of Germany? When the World War I began, so therefore fine. Issue was between what you call as Britain. One of the issue was between when the World War I began, right? Major issue was that okay, Austria-Hungary Empire attacked Serbia. Take Russia came to help of Serbia. Take Germany came to help of Austria-Hungary. ठीक है भाई, कर लो लड़ाई. इतनी लड़ाई बहुत है. Germany plus Austria-Hungary versus Serbia plus Russia. कर लो लड़ाई. It will not be world war. No. Germany, apart from this, is attacking France also. France like, मेरे को क्यों मारा? है ना? Why? Germany is like, since 1894 you have your secret military alliance. Right? चलो ठीक है, फ्रांस से लड़ लो. कह रहे हैं स्लीफन प्लान. कह रहे क्या स्लीफन प्लान? कह रहे यहां से नहीं मारेंगे. विल नॉट अटैक फ्रांस लाइक दिस, विल अटैक फ्रांस लाइक दिस. है ना? बट ये क्या है? बेल्जियम. दिस इज बेल्जियम. बेल्जियम इज लाइक, मेरा लेना एक ना देना दो. Why have you attacked me? अब बेल्जियम का चाइल्डहुड बेस्ट फ्रेंड वॉज ब्रिटेन. है ना? तो ब्रिटेन वॉज लाइक, बेल्जियम को मारा. है ना? मतलब बेल्जियम, मतलब ब्रिटेन हैड अ अलायंस विद बेल्जियम, राइट? तो देयरफॉर Germany is making France also enter into the war. Germany is making Belgium also enter into the war. Germany is making Britain is also enter into the war. So therefore, instead of it being a local war, a bilateral war, it got converted into World War. So therefore, that is much more okay, so that is the responsibility on Germany. Apart from this, another factor was Serbian nationalism. Serbia wanted that all the Slavic people of Balkan Peninsula, that is South East Europe, right? If this screen is Europe, then this part of Europe, right? Greece is part of Balkan Peninsula. All the Slav people, they should be part of Yugoslavia. Yug means summation, ऐसा आप सोच सकते हैं. Yugoslavia, right? Now, if you have to do that, you would have to take away territory from Austria-Hungary Empire, because many of the Slavs, they used to live in Austria-Hungary Empire also, right? So therefore, is not the dream of Yugoslavia a reason for the World War I? Serbia was attacked by Austria-Hungary because of this reason only, right? That was the tension. है तो भाई तुम्हें मची अब यूगोस्लाविया चाहिए, है ना? तो खाली ब्रिटेन पे कैसे ब्लेम डाल सकते हो? हाउ कैन यू पुट द ब्लेम ओनली ऑन ब्रिटेन ना भाई, है ना. तो Serbian nationalism created anxiety in Austria-Hungary, and therefore Austria-Hungary, in it to guard its interest, it did this. So that is also a factor, right? Then Russian anxiety. Russia is also responsible. Had Russia said, I will not support Serbia, then कोई नहीं, Austria-Hungary would have attacked Serbia. Serbia was very small country. हो जाता game over. No. Russia, big brother. I'm going to support you. Why? You're also Slav. I'm also Slav. Jai Viru. That was one factor. Slav. That Romanov dynasty was also Slav dynasty. Right. Second reason was Pani. That is a major strategic reason. If this is what you call as Black Sea, इसको तो आप जानते ही हो, ये क्या है? क्रीमिया. ठीक है, ऐसे जीव निकली है ब्लैक सी. ठीक, क्रीमिया. And this is what you call as Mediterranean Sea. Right? Then this here is Turkey today, and this is Serbia here, Balkan Peninsula. Right? So therefore, if their products, if their goods, they want to have access to the Mediterranean Sea, then this should be open. These are called Straits of Dardanelles. The way Straits of Malacca are important for China, Straits of Russia ka dard is Straits of Dardanelles. Right? And Turkey is anti-Russia. If this area also comes under control of Austria-Hungary, which is friend of Germany, which is enemy of Russia, right? So therefore, then what will happen to the Russian trade? So access to warm waters has been a perennial anxiety of Russia, which is a northern power. Therefore, only one country is super happy, that Arctic ice is melting. That is our friend Putin. Arctic ice is melting. Global warming, Putin say, good. The sun should shine bright. Right? National interest, सर्वोपरि. Right? तो ऐसा. तो how can you blame only them? Then Japan. ताको. है ना? तो Japan had its own. Japan का ना लेना एक ना देना दो. But party to World War I. Japan is like, Britain, I'm your friend. Right? So Japan had alliance with Britain. है ना? कोई यूरोप का कोई मसला नहीं है जापान का, है ना? But still entering World War I, है ना? तो making it truly global war. Now Asia also part of war. Why? Because Japan wanted to annex Chinese territory. Japan wanted to annex Chinese territory. That's why. Right? So therefore, that is. And in general, what is the core reason for the World War I? Colonialism. Everyone wanted colonies. Basically, the fight is over colonies. And after World War I, yahi hua, those who were victorious powers, they basically took over what you call as the colonies of the losing powers. Right? So therefore, desire for colonies. Right? Why do you need colonies? So that you can have raw materials for industrialization. So desire for colonies for faster industrial revolution is the major reason for the World War I. Right? Faster industrial revolution means more industrialization. Right? So how can you blame only the superpower? Right? So it is essentially because of colonialism and essentially because of multiple factors. You cannot blame only Britain as the culprit for. So World War I was not fought only for the reason of balance of power. There were multiple other factors and you cannot put the blame only on the superpower. Then last question that we had, second last question, how far was industrial revolution in England responsible for decline of handicrafts and cottage industries in India? So this question is like straightforward. It is a question on drain theory. Please tell us about drain theory. ठीक है ना? तो in one simple word, if we look at this, so this diagram is very, very amazing, good diagram. That is, you can draw this in the exam also. So basically the whole thought process is this, that industrial revolution, right, it basically gave machine based factories to Britain. After that happened transport revolution. As part of industrial revolution, transport revolution, right? And in the transport revolution, what basically happened is that this whole infrastructure, it was created, right? Whereby railways are being brought in India in 1850s also, right? So therefore you are extracting raw material to the ports. From the ports, the raw material, they are being carried by steam engine fitted ships to the port in Britain, right? So Britishers are going to build railways, roadways, plus this port, rail to port infrastructure it is also called. From this port, the raw material will go to, this is cheaply procured raw material, it will go to the factory, reducing the cost of production because sasta raw material mil gaya. They will manufacture the finished good, they will sell the finished goods not just to the Britishers, but these finished goods they will go to the port. From the port, these finished goods they will go to Indian port, right? And from Indian port, where? To the export market, that is our cities where rich people live who have buying power. Right? So therefore this is how drain of wealth is actually taking place. When they are selling finished good, then forex is going out and they are not giving us the right price for our raw materials, right? So therefore raw materials extraction it is taking place, right? So therefore huge amount of raw material was extracted, right? So that is the key thing. Second aspect, when for example Suez Canal was constructed from 1859 to 69, this reduced distance between Britain and Arabian Sea, or Britain and India, by roughly 4,500 miles, which is like 9,600 kilometers. 1.6 kilometer is equal to 1 mile, right? So therefore now the distance is shortened, so therefore our loot is hastened, right? Second aspect that you can talk about is that what is the impact on our handicraft sector. So as we had discussed earlier also today, so our handicraft sector was destroyed because when you went to the shop in India now, right? So therefore Deepika ji, aiye. Deepika ji is like, I want Indian product, right? Shopkeeper like, Deepika ji, jab kam daam mein British product mile, to koi Indian kyun le? British na le, right? Better quality product and cheaper priced because manufactured with the help of machine, mass production. Right. So as a result, no one is buying Indian handicraft sector products, right? So therefore this further leads to what? Overburdening of the agriculture sector. Because the person who was earlier engaged in handicraft sector, वो अपना property में हिस्सा मांगेगा भाई. Right, he'll say कि भाई देखो sorry, right, I have to go back. Why? Because no industrialization, no IR is taking place in India. No IR is taking place in India. So therefore he was ready to give up his tools, he was ready to learn how to be a worker who works on machine, but industrialization of India is not being done. So therefore agriculture sector it is overburdened, right? So that is how things are happening, right? तो यहाँ से आप मतलब start कर सकते हो, ये आपका एक introduction type से हो गया, and then you can talk about all of these factors. Then you can further add that it was not just IR. इसमें intellectual depth का आप क्या डाल सकते हो? You can basically argue that see, if industrial revolution is taking place in England, if something good happens in England, why should India suffer? Why should Indian handicraft sector should suffer? Imagine a hypothetical scenario that if India was independent, fine, and there was, let's say, open economy. If industrial revolution is taking place in Britain, what will happen? Well, maybe simultaneously, if we were politically independent under one strong central government, we could have basically initially given some support to the handicraft sector by putting high import duties, protected our indigenous sector. Simultaneously, Japan kaun sa industrialized tha? You can say that like the way Japan gradually learned to compete with the West by importing machines, by importing technology, right? By allowing some FDI also, let's say, right? So we could have gradually reformed our economy, right? And we could have preserved, initially we could have given some protection to our cottage industry and the handicraft sector, and later we could have competed also, right? So, but however, this thing did not happen. Why? Because we are not independent. So answer to this question becomes that it is not just IR in Britain which has hurt the Indian handicraft sector. it is because there is industrial revolution in Britain, plus because we are not independent and therefore we cannot make independent economic policies. Because of this factor, what ideally a independent country does to protect its handicraft sector, etc., that was not done by the British. In the next paragraph, you can write down that how it was not done by the British. For example, an independent country would not make railway map the way Britishers constructed railways. Independent country would have connected our handicraft sector locations or our factories with our raw materials, right? An independent country would have applied import duty, whereas Britain applied import duty for the first time for India only before World War I, that is in 1914, to get support of the Indian capitalists. Before 1914, there was no import duty, whereas Britain used to apply import duty in Britain to prevent entry of Indian products, right? What Britain also did, it manipulated the exchange rate. It manipulated the exchange rate to the advantage of British economy, right? So therefore, this is how you can kind of like focus, right? That these are the factors because of which this thing did not happen to us, right? This our cottage industry, etc., they got negatively impacted. Last question for the day is, bring out socio-economic effects of railways in different parts of India, right? Bring out the socio-economic effects of the introduction of railways in different countries of the world, right? So how to approach this? Well, you can classify, अगर इसके बारे में सोचें, you can think about, let's say, कुछ कह रहे थे क्या? हाँ बस हो गया. So this is like the structure of this answer. Broadly, you can divide the whole earth into northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, right? Northern hemisphere were the colonial powers. They enjoyed positive impact of industrial revolution, including railways, right? Southern hemisphere, as we have just seen in the drain theory example, it was through railways, that railroad network, that the wealth of the colonies were extracted in the drain theory, right? So therefore, overall, southern hemisphere, that is colonies, only negative impact would be there, majorly negative impact, although some positive can obviously be there, right? In the north, overall to positive hai, but here also, if you think socio-economic wise, then you can look section by section to identify which section benefited, which section did not benefited. So broadly, benefit is that because of the railways, basically in economy you study about factors of production. So what railway does, it is able to bring multiple factors of production at one place, right? Raw material, workers, right? So therefore these two things, they are brought at one place where the factory is, right? So therefore that leads to obviously production that will automatically boost GDP. Second thing which happens is it provides, railway was a very good investment opportunity for those people who were capitalist. Third thing is the sectors which are connected to the railways, like coal sector, because steam engine, coal, steel sector, right? So therefore mining sector and these sectors, they are also going to get a very, very big boom, right? Plus interconnected economy, right? So therefore your domestic economy can get interconnected, plus because of rail to port infrastructure, global economy can also get interconnected. That is, goods can move from one country to another country. So these are the positives. But if you think about the negatives, for example, if you think about the working class, right? So therefore initially no protection to wages was there, right? So therefore they suffered. If you think about women, so women, they used to get lower wage compared to the men. If you think about child, right, then beat any sector, but railway was one of the most booming sectors, so therefore these workers, etc., they were very active in these areas. So high amount of child labor would also be there, right? Then, so therefore this becomes kind of like the negative impact of the railways on the poor people of developed economies, right? That is what is happening. This oppression, it is also leading to what you call as political instability. Example, in Russia, when 1905 revolution took place, major participation was by railway workers. In India also, for example, first organized strikes by the workers was 1899 signalers strike. Signal system hota na, to uske jo workers the, they had, signal strike in Great Indian Peninsular Railway, right? So therefore, उस तरीके से political instability भी एक तरीके से increase हुई, ठीक है ना? South में देखें तो only negative we have already discussed, ठीक है? That will be a repeat actually. So basically, negative is actually drain of wealth that is actually happening, which is not leaving any money for investment for its own industrialization. However, some positives are there. Example, people to people contact, it is increasing. Right? So therefore sense of nationalism is going to increase. Leaders, for example, Mahatma Gandhi used railways to understand India, to travel whole in different parts of India. Many of the caste related barriers are broken because when people, they use railways, so therefore there is no caste angle, so people, they kind of like travel together and all of this, like miscellaneous kind of point you can mention, right? तो ऐसा कुछ जुगाड़ करके, जुगाड़ मतलब let's say Britishers, they have constructed this railway line. Indian factory, it is here. Indian factory, it is here, right? So this is source of raw material, this is port. Britishers are actually constructing this railway line. तो हमने कुछ जुगाड़ लगाया. हमने क्या किया? हमने, we created pressure on the Britishers, either through the Indian national movement or through petitions of the moderates, right? ऐसा. And we got constructed a railway station here. And then we got constructed a road here. This road is known as feeder road. राइट? सो देयरफॉर ऐसे हमने जुगाड़ कर लिया. जैसे हम बचपन में वो केबल नहीं लेते दूसरे अंकल का, समझ लो क्या कर, नहीं समझ, मतलब द होल पॉइंट इज दैट द ओरिजिनल रेलवे लाइन इज दिस. हम बस ये प्रेशर क्रिएट कर रहे हैं दैट यू प्लीज क्रिएट अ रेलवे स्टेशन हियर एंड कंस्ट्रक्ट सम काइंड ऑफ अ रोड हियर. सो देयरफॉर व्हेन द ट्रेन इज कमिंग फ्रॉम झारखंड कैरिंग रॉ मटेरियल, हम भी ऑर्डर प्लेस कर देंगे, इट विल स्टॉप हियर, विल टेक आवर गुड्स, पुट इट टू ट्रक एंड ब्रिंग हियर, राइट? सिमिलरली, let's say there is a railway line which is bringing finished goods from port to city. तो वही सेम चीज एक रेलवे स्टेशन क्रिएट करता है so that our goods they can also reach the Indian cities, right? So therefore this is how some unintended kind of like byproducts were there for the colonies, right? Otherwise a lot of drain of wealth also took place. You can also talk about what you call as guaranteed interest on railways and all of that would drain wale elements. So therefore this is how we have covered all the questions in a very very elaborate manner of the past 3 years. I hope थोड़ा बेनिफिशियल रहा हो, रिवीजन भी हो गई हो और कुछ और आइडिया भी लगा. अब 5 बजे एक और सेशन है, ओपन सेशन. कोई टॉपर ऊपर आ रहा होगा, ऐसे अच्छा नहीं लगता, क्लास के बाहर बात कर लेना. ठीक, हाँ तो यार उनका भी तो
The UPSC exam doesn't defeat you with difficulty. It defeats you with confusion, lack of clarity, lack of direction, and preparation that feels scattered. At Vision IAS Delhi, we rebuild your UPSC journey with structure, strategy, and support that doesn't waver. Get complete coverage of GSC, SAT, and essay step by step. PT 365 and Mains 365, so current affairs stop feeling like chaos. Personal mentorship, not just advice, but actual strategy guidance. Test feedback loops, because growth begins where guesswork ends. Toppers didn't just prepare, they built the right foundation. Now it's your turn. This isn't just a course, it's where clarity, consistency, and confidence begin. The UPSC exam doesn't defeat you with difficulty. It defeats you with confusion, lack of clarity, lack of direction, and preparation that feels scattered. At Vision IAS Delhi, we rebuild your UPSC journey with structure, strategy, and support that doesn't waver. Get complete coverage of GSC, SAT, and essays step by step. PT 365 and Mains 365, so current affairs stop feeling like chaos. Personal mentorship, not just advice, but actual strategy guidance. Test feedback loops, because growth begins where guesswork ends. Toppers didn't just prepare, they built the right foundation. Now it's your turn. This isn't just a course, it's where clarity, consistency, and confidence begin. The UPSC exam doesn't defeat you with difficulty. It defeats you with confusion, lack of clarity, lack of direction, and preparation that feels scattered. At Vision IAS Delhi, we rebuild your UPSC journey with structure, strategy, and support that doesn't waver. Get complete coverage of GSC, SAT, and essays step by step. PT 365 and Mains 365, so current affairs stop feeling like chaos. Personal mentorship, not just advice, but actual strategy guidance. Test feedback loops, because growth begins where guesswork ends. Toppers didn't just prepare, they built the right foundation. Now it's your turn. This isn't just a course, it's where clarity, consistency, and confidence begin. The UPSC exam doesn't defeat you with difficulty. It defeats you with confusion.